Right now as you listen to this, there are two versions of you. The first version is the one living your current life, accepting your current limitations, making excuses for why you can't have what you want. The second version is the person you could become, the unstoppable force that exists within you, waiting to be unleashed. The difference between these two versions isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. It's belief. Self-belief is the single most powerful force that separates those who achieve extraordinary things from those who live ordinary lives. And here's what most people don't understand. Belief isn't something you're born with or without. It's something you can force yourself to develop, systematically and deliberately. This audiobook will teach you how to rewire your brain for unshakable self-belief. You'll learn the exact psychological techniques used by the most successful people in the world to overcome self-doubt, build unstoppable confidence, and program their minds for inevitable success. By the end of this journey, you won't just believe in yourself. You'll know with absolute certainty that you are unstoppable. Chapter 1. The Belief Prison. Why your mind keeps you small. Your biggest enemy isn't the economy, your competition, or your circumstances. Your biggest enemy is the voice in your head that tells you that you're not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough to achieve what you want. This voice isn't telling you the truth. It's telling you a story. A story that has been programmed into your subconscious mind through years of conditioning, criticism, and fear-based thinking. Every single limitation you currently believe about yourself is nothing more than a mental program running in the background of your mind. These programs were installed when you were young, when your brain was most impressionable. Maybe a teacher told you that you weren't smart. Maybe your parents said you were too sensitive. Maybe you failed at something important and your brain decided to protect you from future failure by convincing you that you simply don't have what it takes. But here's the brutal truth that will set you free. None of these limitations are real. They exist only in your mind. And what exists only in your mind can be changed. The reason you haven't achieved what you want isn't because you lack ability. It's because you've been operating from a belief system that was designed to keep you safe, not to help you succeed. Think about this for a moment. There are people right now at this very moment who are less intelligent than you, who had worse starting circumstances than you, who have fewer resources than you, and yet they are achieving things you only dream about. The only difference between you and them is that they believe they can do it, and you believe you can't. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. It simply accepts as truth whatever you consistently tell it. If you consistently tell yourself that you're not good enough, your subconscious mind will find evidence to support that belief. It will make you notice your failures and ignore your successes. It will make you hesitate when opportunities arise. It will sabotage your efforts to ensure that your external reality matches your internal programming. This is why positive thinking alone doesn't work. You can't just think positive thoughts while your subconscious mind is running programs of limitation and fear. It's like trying to drive a car with the parking brake on. You might move forward a little bit, but you'll never reach your true potential until you release the brake. The first step to becoming unstoppable is recognizing that every single belief you have about your limitations is a choice. You didn't choose these beliefs consciously, but you can choose to change them consciously. The moment you realize that your beliefs are not facts, they are simply thoughts. You've thought so many times that they feel true. You begin to reclaim your power. Most people live their entire lives trapped in a belief prison of their own making. They never question whether their limiting beliefs are actually true. They simply accept them as reality and then spend their entire lives gathering evidence to support them. But you are not most people. You are here because you're ready to break free from the programming that has kept you small. The prison walls are made of thoughts and thoughts can be changed. The lock on the door is fear and fear can be conquered. The key to your freedom is the recognition that you have the power to believe whatever you choose to believe about yourself. And when you choose to believe that you are unstoppable, you become unstoppable. But changing deep-rooted beliefs isn't easy. Your mind will resist. It will try to pull you back to the familiar patterns of limitation and doubt. It will whisper all the reasons why you should stay small, stay safe, stay where you are. This resistance isn't evidence that change is impossible. It's evidence that change is happening. The stronger the resistance, the more powerful the transformation taking place. Your current beliefs about yourself were formed through repetition and emotional intensity. To change them, you must use the same process in reverse. You must repeatedly expose your mind to new beliefs about yourself. And you must attach strong positive emotions to these new beliefs until they become more real to your subconscious mind than the old limitations. This is not about lying to yourself or engaging in fantasy. This is about recognizing the truth about your potential that your limiting beliefs have hidden from you. Deep down beneath all the programming and conditioning, you know that you are capable of extraordinary things. You've always known it. You can feel it stirring within you right now as you listen to these words. The time has come to stop living as a prisoner of your own mind and start living as the powerful, capable, unstoppable person you were born to be. The key is in your hand. The door is ready to open. All you have to do is choose to believe in yourself as powerfully as you've chosen to believe in your limitations. Chapter 2. The Science of Self-Belief. Rewiring your brain for success. Your brain is not fixed. This single fact changes everything. For decades, scientists believed that the adult brain was essentially unchangeable. That you were stuck with whatever neural pathways you developed in childhood. This lie kept millions of people trapped in patterns of limitation and mediocrity. But neuroscience has proven beyond any doubt that your brain is constantly changing, constantly rewiring itself based on your thoughts, emotions, and experiences. This process is called neuroplasticity, and it's the biological foundation of your ability to transform yourself completely. Every thought you think strengthens certain neural pathways and weakens others. Every emotion you feel literally rewires your brain. Every experience you have creates new connections between neurons. This means that your capacity for self-belief isn't fixed by your genetics or your past. It can be developed, strengthened, and expanded just like a muscle. When you think a thought, your brain creates a neural pathway. When you think that same thought again, the pathway gets stronger. Think it enough times and it becomes an automatic pattern, a mental highway that your thoughts travel down without conscious effort. This is how beliefs are formed. They are simply thoughts. You've thought so many times that your brain has created super highways to support them. The beliefs you have about yourself right now, whether they're empowering or limiting, exist as physical structures in your brain. The good news is that you can build new structures and weaken old ones. Every time you choose to think a new thought about yourself, you're literally rewiring your brain. Every time you act in a way that's consistent with who you want to become rather than who you've been, you're strengthening the neural pathways that support your new identity. But here's what most people don't understand about neuroplasticity. It's not enough to just think positive thoughts occasionally. Your brain changes based on what you consistently focus on, not what you occasionally hope for. If you spend 5 minutes a day telling yourself you're confident and capable, but the other 15 hours and 55 minutes running old patterns of self-doubt and limitation, your brain will strengthen the pathways that support the dominant pattern. This is why most people fail to create lasting change. They try to think positively while continuing to live negatively. They affirm their potential while acting from their limitations. They hope for transformation while maintaining the same thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that created their current reality. To rewire your brain for unshakable self-belief, you must become obsessively consistent with your new programming. You must think, feel, and act from your desired identity so frequently that your brain has no choice but to create new neural pathways to support it. You must make your new beliefs more familiar to your subconscious mind than your old limitations. The reticular activating system, or RAS, is another crucial component of your brain's belief system. This network of neurons acts as a filter determining what information gets through to your conscious awareness. Your RAS is programmed by your beliefs. If you believe you're unlucky, your RA will filter reality to show you evidence of your bad luck while ignoring evidence of your good fortune. If you believe you're capable and destined for success, your RS will highlight opportunities, resources, and evidence that support this belief. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation and have completely different perceptions of what happened. Their RAS is filtering the same reality through different belief systems, creating entirely different experiences. When you change your beliefs about yourself, you literally change what you perceive as possible in your reality. Mirror neurons add another layer to the science of belief formation. These specialized brain cells fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing the same action. This is why spending time around confident, successful people can actually rewire your brain for confidence and success. Your mirror neurons are constantly absorbing and mimicking the neural patterns of people you're exposed to. If you surround yourself with people who doubt themselves, complain constantly, and make excuses, your mirror neurons will strengthen those patterns in your own brain. But if you immerse yourself in the energy of people who believe in themselves powerfully, take massive action and expect success, your brain will begin to mirror those patterns. Instead, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision and self-control, also plays a critical role in developing self-belief. When you consistently choose thoughts and actions that align with who you want to become rather than who you've been, you strengthen this part of your brain. The stronger your prefrontal cortex becomes, the easier it is to override automatic patterns of limitation and consciously choose empowering beliefs. Visualization is another powerful tool for leveraging your brain's plasticity. When you vividly imagine yourself succeeding, achieving your goals, and expressing unshakable confidence, your brain fires many of the same neural patterns as if you were actually experiencing these things. The more detailed and emotionally charged your visualizations, the more real they become to your subconscious mind. But visualization without action is just fantasy. The most powerful way to rewire your brain is through what neuroscientists call embodied cognition. Thinking, feeling, and acting as the person you want to become simultaneously. When you align your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors with your desired identity, you create coherence in your nervous system that accelerates the rewiring process. Your brain is always changing. The question is whether it's changing in a direction that supports your greatest potential or strengthens your limitations. Every moment of every day, you're either building neural pathways that support self-belief or reinforcing patterns of doubt. There is no neutral. You are either growing stronger or growing weaker. You are either becoming more confident or more fearful. You are either moving toward your unstoppable self or away from it. The power is in your hands. Your brain is waiting for your instructions. The neural pathways of extraordinary self-belief are ready to be built. All you have to do is commit to the process of consistent, deliberate mental training. All you have to do is decide that you're going to think, feel, and act like the unstoppable person you're destined to become until your brain has no choice but to make it your new reality. Chapter 3. The Identity Shift. Becoming the person you were meant to be, who you believe you are, determines everything you do. Your identity is the most powerful force in your psychology because every decision you make, every action you take, and every goal you set is filtered through your sense of self. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you will unconsciously make choices that keep you struggling. If you see yourself as someone who is destined for greatness, you will naturally make choices that lead to greatness. Most people try to change their results without changing their identity. And this is why they fail. They want to be successful while still seeing themselves as failures. They want to be confident while maintaining an identity of insecurity. They want to achieve extraordinary things while believing they are ordinary people. This approach is doomed to fail because your external world will always mirror your internal identity. Your current identity was not chosen by you consciously. It was formed through years of experiences, feedback from others, and the stories you've told yourself about what those experiences mean. Someone told you that you were shy, and you accepted that as part of your identity. You failed at something important and you decided that you were a failure. You were criticized by someone whose opinion mattered to you and you concluded that you weren't good enough. But here's what you must understand. Your identity is not who you are. It's who you've decided to be based on limited information and often inaccurate interpretations. The shy person is not inherently shy. They've simply practiced shy behaviors so consistently that it became part of their identity. The person who believes they are a failure is not actually a failure. They've simply focused on their failures while ignoring their successes. Your true identity, your essential self, is far more powerful than the limited version you've accepted. You are at your core a being of unlimited potential capable of learning anything, achieving anything, and becoming anything you set your mind to. The limitations you've accepted as part of your identity are not truth. They are simply habits of thought and behavior that can be changed. To become unstoppable, you must consciously choose a new identity and then relentlessly act from that identity until it becomes more real to your subconscious mind than your old limitations. This process requires you to step into the unknown, to act in ways that feel unfamiliar, to think thoughts that don't match your current self-concept. The first step in shifting your identity is to get crystal clear about who you want to become. Not what you want to have or achieve, but who you want to be. What are the characteristics of your unstoppable self? How does this person think? How do they feel? How do they act? How do they respond to challenges? How do they treat others? How do they treat themselves? Write down a detailed description of your ideal identity. Don't worry about whether it feels realistic based on who you are now. Your current identity wasn't realistic when you first started developing it either. You weren't born knowing how to be insecure, doubtful, or limited. You learned those patterns and you can learn new ones. Once you have a clear vision of your new identity, you must begin acting from that identity immediately, even if it feels fake at first. This is called acting as if, and it's one of the most powerful psychological techniques for creating rapid change. When you act as if you already are the person you want to become, your brain begins to wire itself to support that new identity. Every action you take either reinforces your current identity or builds your new one. When you choose courage over fear, you strengthen your identity as a courageous person. When you choose confidence over doubt, you reinforce your identity as a confident person. When you choose persistence over giving up, you solidify your identity as an unstoppable person. Your new identity will feel uncomfortable at first because it's unfamiliar. Your brain is wired to seek familiarity even when that familiarity is limiting. This is why you might feel resistance when you start acting more confidently, speaking up more assertively, or pursuing bigger goals. Your old identity is fighting to maintain control. This resistance is not a sign that you're being fake or inauthentic. It's a sign that you're growing. Authenticity isn't about being true to who you've been. It's about being true to who you're becoming. Your authentic self is not your limited self. It's your unlimited self. You're not becoming someone else. You're becoming who you really are. Beneath all the programming and conditioning, the people around you may also resist your identity shift. They've gotten used to you being a certain way, and your growth challenges their own limitations. Some people will try to pull you back to your old identity because your evolution reminds them of their own stagnation. This is why it's crucial to surround yourself with people who support your growth and to limit your exposure to those who try to keep you small. Language plays a critical role in identity formation. The way you talk about yourself programs your subconscious mind. If you say I am not good at this or I am not the type of person who, you're literally programming limitations into your identity. Instead, you must consciously choose language that supports your new identity. I am learning to be good at this or I am becoming the type of person who creates space for growth and transformation. Your new identity must be backed up by evidence. But you don't need to wait for evidence to start believing in your new identity. You create evidence by acting from your new identity. Every time you choose courage, you create evidence that you are courageous. Every time you persist through difficulty, you create evidence that you are unstoppable. Every time you believe in yourself despite external circumstances, you create evidence that you are powerful. The compound effect applies to identity development just as it applies to everything else. Small consistent actions aligned with your new identity create massive transformation over time. You don't become unstoppable overnight, but you can become a little more unstoppable every day. You don't develop unshakable confidence in a week, but you can strengthen your confidence with every choice you make. Your identity is not your destiny. It's your choice. You have the power to decide who you want to be and then become that person through deliberate, consistent action. The question is not whether you can change your identity. The question is whether you will. The question is whether you're committed enough to your transformation to act like the person you want to become. Even when it feels uncomfortable, even when others don't understand, even when your old patterns try to pull you back, your unstoppable identity is waiting for you to claim it. It's not something you need to earn or deserve. It's something you need to choose and embody. The moment you decide that you are unstoppable and begin acting from that identity, you begin the process of making it your reality. The moment you choose to believe in your unlimited potential and back that belief with consistent action, you start becoming the person you were always meant to be. Chapter 4. Breaking through the fear barrier. Conquering the voice that says you can't. Fear is not your enemy. It's your compass. Every time you feel afraid, you're being pointed toward exactly what you need to do to grow. Every time that voice in your head says you can't, it's actually showing you the path to your next level. Most people run from fear, but unstoppable people run toward it. They understand that on the other side of fear lies everything they've ever wanted. The fear you feel when you think about believing in yourself powerfully is not random. It's your mind's way of trying to protect you from the unknown. Your brain is hardwired to keep you alive, not to help you thrive. It sees anything unfamiliar as potentially dangerous, including the unfamiliar territory of owning your power and expecting success. But here's what your fearful mind doesn't understand. Staying small is actually the most dangerous thing you can do. Playing it safe is the riskiest strategy of all. When you hold back your potential, when you silence your dreams, when you settle for less than what you're capable of, you're not protecting yourself. You're destroying yourself. You're dying a slow death of regret and mediocrity. Fear comes in many disguises. Sometimes it shows up as the voice that says, "Who do you think you are when you dare to dream big?" Sometimes it masquerades as logic, giving you rational-sounding reasons why your goals are unrealistic. Sometimes it appears as concern for others, making you worry about what people will think if you start believing in yourself powerfully. The most insidious form of fear is the fear of success itself. Deep down, many people are more afraid of succeeding than failing because success means change, responsibility, and stepping into the unknown. Failure, on the other hand, is familiar. It confirms what you already believe about yourself and allows you to stay exactly where you are. Fear of success often stems from childhood programming. Maybe you were taught that successful people are selfish or that money is the root of all evil. Maybe you learned that standing out is dangerous or that it's better to blend in than to shine. These beliefs create subconscious resistance to your own success, sabotaging your efforts just when you're about to break through. Another common fear is the fear of responsibility. When you believe in yourself powerfully, you can no longer blame your circumstances, your past, or other people for your results. You become 100% responsible for your life. And this level of responsibility can feel overwhelming. It's easier to believe you're powerless because powerlessness comes with the comfort of having excuses. The fear of judgment is perhaps the most universal fear that keeps people from believing in themselves. We worry about what others will think if we start acting confident. If we pursue our dreams aggressively, if we refuse to settle for mediocrity. We imagine that people will think we're arrogant, delusional, or getting too big for our britches. But here's the truth about what other people think. Most people are so consumed with their own insecurities and limitations that they barely notice what you're doing. And the people who do judge you for believing in yourself are usually the ones who are most frustrated with their own lack of self-belief. Happy, successful people celebrate when others believe in themselves because it reminds them of their own potential. The way to conquer fear is not to eliminate it, but to dance with it. Fear never goes away completely. Even the most successful, confident people in the world still feel fear. The difference is that they've learned to feel fear and take action anyway. They've learned to use fear as fuel instead of letting it be a barrier. When you feel fear arising, the first step is to recognize it for what it is. Information. Fear is your brain's way of saying this is important or this matters to you or you're about to grow. Instead of running from these feelings, get curious about them. What specifically are you afraid of? What's the worst-case scenario your mind is imagining? What would happen if that worst-case scenario actually occurred? Most of the time you'll discover that your fears are vastly exaggerated. Your mind is catastrophizing, creating dramatic stories about terrible outcomes that are extremely unlikely to happen. And even if the worst-case scenario did occur, you would almost certainly be able to handle it better than your fearful mind believes. The technique of worst-case scenario planning can be incredibly liberating. Instead of trying to avoid thinking about what could go wrong, deliberately imagine the worst possible outcome and then create a plan for how you would handle it. When you realize that you could survive and even thrive through your worst-case scenario, the fear loses its power over you. Another powerful technique for conquering fear is to flip the script. Instead of focusing on what you might lose by taking action, focus on what you will definitely lose by not taking action. What will your life look like in 5 years if you continue to let fear keep you small? What dreams will remain unfulfilled? What potential will remain untapped? What regrets will you carry? The pain of regret is far greater than the temporary discomfort of facing your fears. When you're on your deathbed, you won't regret the risks you took or the times you believed in yourself too much. You'll regret the chances you didn't take, the dreams you didn't pursue. The person you never became because you let fear keep you playing small. Fear also responds to action. The more you do the thing you're afraid of, the less scary it becomes. This is called systematic desensitization, and it's the foundation of all courage building. You don't become brave by avoiding scary situations. You become brave by repeatedly facing your fears and discovering that you can handle whatever happens. Start small. If you're afraid to speak up in meetings, practice speaking up in low-stakes conversations. If you're afraid to pursue your dreams, take one small step toward them today. If you're afraid to believe in yourself powerfully, practice believing in yourself a little more each day. Every act of courage, no matter how small, builds your confidence and reduces your fear. Remember that fear and excitement are physiologically almost identical. They both cause increased heart rate, heightened alertness, and a rush of adrenaline. The only difference is your interpretation of these sensations. When you expect something good to happen, you call it excitement. When you expect something bad to happen, you call it fear. You can literally transform fear into excitement by changing your interpretation of what you're feeling. The voice that says you can't is not the voice of truth. It's the voice of limitation. It's the voice of every person who ever doubted themselves. Every dream that was abandoned. Every potential that was never realized. But you also have another voice inside you. The voice of your unlimited self. The voice of your dreams. The voice of your destiny. This voice says you can, you will, you must. The question is which voice you're going to listen to. The choice is yours, and it's the most important choice you'll ever make. You can listen to the voice of fear and spend your life wondering what could have been. Or you can listen to the voice of possibility and discover what you're truly capable of. You can let fear be your master. Or you can make fear your servant, using it to guide you toward your greatest growth and your most powerful self. Chapter 5. The Power of Relentless Self-Validation. Stop seeking approval and start approving of yourself. The moment you stop seeking validation from others and start validating yourself is the moment you become truly unstoppable. Most people are trapped in an endless cycle of trying to prove their worth to others. Constantly looking outside themselves for confirmation that they're good enough, smart enough, or valuable enough. This external validation addiction is one of the greatest barriers to developing unshakable self-belief. When you base your self-worth on other people's opinions, you give away your power. You allow others to determine how you feel about yourself. And this puts you at the mercy of their moods, biases, and limitations. Someone has a bad day and treats you poorly, and suddenly you question your worth. Someone doesn't respond to your message immediately and you assume they don't like you. Someone criticizes your work and you begin to doubt your abilities. This validation-seeking behavior is learned, not natural. Children are born with an innate sense of their own magnificence. Watch a toddler dance or sing or draw, and you'll see pure self-expression without any concern for others' opinions. But somewhere along the way, we learn to look outside ourselves for approval. We learn that love and acceptance are conditional, that we must perform in certain ways to be worthy of positive attention. The education system reinforces this pattern by teaching us to seek approval from teachers and grades rather than developing our own internal standards of excellence. The workplace continues the conditioning by making us dependent on bosses and performance reviews for validation. Social media has taken this to an extreme by turning validation seeking into an addiction, with likes, comments, and shares becoming the new currency of self-worth. But here's what no one tells you. Other people's opinions of you are not facts. They're simply reflections of their own beliefs, experiences, and limitations. When someone judges you negatively, they're not revealing truth about you. They're revealing something about themselves. Their criticism says more about their own insecurities, fears, and conditioning than it does about your actual worth or capabilities. The most successful people in the world have learned to generate their own validation. They have developed an internal scoring system that's based on their own standards rather than other people's opinions. They know their worth is not determined by external achievements or recognition but by their own commitment to growth, authenticity, and contribution. Self-validation is not about becoming arrogant or dismissive of feedback. It's about developing such a strong relationship with yourself that other people's opinions become interesting information rather than determinants of your worth. When you validate yourself consistently, you can receive criticism without being crushed and praise without being inflated. You maintain your equilibrium because your sense of self is internally generated. The first step in developing self-validation is to become aware of how often you seek approval from others. Notice how many of your decisions are influenced by what others might think. Pay attention to how much mental energy you spend worrying about others' opinions. Observe how your mood changes based on how others treat you. This awareness is crucial because you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Start questioning the authority you've given to others' opinions. Why does their approval matter so much to you? What makes their judgment more valid than your own? Often you'll discover that you've given people power over your self-worth who haven't earned it, who don't understand you, or who aren't even qualified to judge what you're trying to accomplish. Begin developing your own internal validation system by defining your own standards of success and worthiness. What matters to you? What are you proud of? What progress have you made? What challenges have you overcome? What value do you bring to the world? Create a list of your accomplishments, strengths, and positive qualities and refer to it regularly. This isn't about being delusional or ignoring areas for improvement. It's about giving yourself credit for what you've already done and who you already are. Practice celebrating your wins, no matter how small they might seem to others. Most people are quick to criticize themselves and slow to acknowledge their achievements. Reverse this pattern. Become your own biggest cheerleader. When you accomplish something, acknowledge it. When you make progress, celebrate it. When you overcome a challenge, honor your strength and resilience. Stop apologizing for your existence. Many people have been conditioned to apologize constantly for taking up space, having opinions, or pursuing their dreams. They say sorry for things that don't require apologies, diminishing themselves in the process. Unless you've actually wronged someone, stop apologizing. Stand in your power. Own your space. Express your thoughts without prefacing them with apologies. Learn to trust your own judgment. You have an inner wisdom that knows what's right for you, what aligns with your values, and what serves your highest good. This wisdom might be buried under years of conditioning and self-doubt, but it's still there. Start making decisions based on what feels right to you rather than what others expect or approve of. Set boundaries with people who consistently invalidate or criticize you. You don't have to accept negative treatment from anyone, regardless of their relationship to you. It's not selfish to protect your energy and self-worth from people who drain or diminish you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to limit your exposure to people who can't see your worth. Surround yourself with people who appreciate and support you. Seek out relationships with people who celebrate your successes, believe in your potential, and encourage your growth. These people will reflect back to you the truth of your worth and capabilities, making it easier to maintain your self-validation. Even when facing criticism or challenges, practice positive self-talk as rigorously as you would practice any other skill. The conversation you have with yourself is the most important conversation of your life because it's the only one that never ends. Most people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to a friend. They're harsh, critical, and unforgiving. Start speaking to yourself with the same kindness, encouragement, and support you would offer someone you love. Develop a practice of giving yourself what you've been seeking from others. If you want appreciation, appreciate yourself. If you want encouragement, encourage yourself. If you want love, love yourself. If you want someone to believe in you, believe in yourself. Stop waiting for others to give you what you can give yourself right now. Remember that seeking validation is a bottomless pit. No amount of external approval will ever be enough if you don't approve of yourself first. You could receive praise from everyone in the world, but if you don't believe you deserve it, it won't satisfy you. Conversely, when you develop genuine self-validation, criticism loses its sting, and praise becomes a nice bonus rather than a necessity. The journey to self-validation is not always easy because it requires you to go against years of conditioning and social programming. There will be times when you slip back into seeking approval from others. And that's okay. The goal is not perfection but progress. Every time you choose to validate yourself instead of seeking it from others, you strengthen your internal foundation and move closer to becoming truly unstoppable. Your worth is not up for debate. Your value is not determined by votes. Your magnificence is not dependent on recognition. You are inherently worthy, capable, and deserving of everything you desire simply because you exist. The sooner you accept this truth and start living from it, the sooner you'll discover the unshakable confidence that comes from knowing that the most important opinion of you is your own. Chapter 6. Mental Rehearsal Programming Your Subconscious for Inevitable Success. Your mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. This is not metaphor. This is neuroscience. When you visualize yourself succeeding with complete emotional intensity, your brain fires the exact same neural patterns as if you were actually experiencing that success. This means you can literally program your subconscious mind for success before it happens in your physical reality. Most people use their imagination against themselves. They mentally rehearse failure, disaster, and rejection with incredible detail and emotional intensity. They visualize themselves being embarrassed, falling short, or being rejected. They run these negative scenarios over and over in their minds, unknowingly programming their subconscious for the exact outcomes they want to avoid. But you can flip this script. You can use the same mental mechanism that creates anxiety and self-doubt to create unshakable confidence and inevitable success. You can train your mind to expect success so powerfully that your subconscious will work tirelessly to make it your reality. Elite athletes have known this secret for decades. They spend hours mentally rehearsing perfect performances, imagining themselves executing flawlessly under pressure. Feeling the emotions of victory before competition even begins. Studies have shown that mental practice can improve performance almost as much as physical practice. Some research suggests that combining mental and physical practice is more effective than physical practice alone. The key to effective mental rehearsal is specificity and emotional intensity. You can't just vaguely imagine yourself being successful. You must create detailed, specific scenarios where you see yourself performing with confidence, handling challenges with ease, and achieving your goals with certainty. The more specific your visualization, the more real it becomes to your subconscious mind. Begin each mental rehearsal session by getting into a relaxed state. Find a quiet place where you won't be interrupted. Close your eyes and take several deep breaths. Allow your body to relax completely. This relaxed state makes your subconscious mind more receptive to new programming. Now create a detailed movie in your mind of yourself performing at your peak. If you're preparing for a presentation, see yourself walking into the room with complete confidence. Feel the certainty in your body. Hear your voice strong and clear. See the engaged faces of your audience. Feel the satisfaction of delivering powerful content that impacts others. If you're working toward a business goal, visualize yourself achieving it. See the numbers on your screen. Feel the emotions of success. Hear the congratulations from others. Experience the pride and satisfaction of accomplishment. Make it so real that your body responds as if it's actually happening. The emotional component is crucial because emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. Your subconscious doesn't respond to logic or reasoning. It responds to feeling. When you feel the emotions of success during visualization, you're literally installing those emotions as your new normal. Your brain begins to expect those feelings and will work to create circumstances that match them. Practice mental rehearsal consistently, ideally twice per day. Spend 10 to 15 minutes in the morning programming your mind for success and 10 to 15 minutes before bed reinforcing those programs. Your subconscious is most receptive during the drowsy states just after waking and just before sleeping. Don't just visualize the end result. Also rehearse the process. See yourself taking the actions required for success. Imagine yourself persisting through challenges. Visualize yourself bouncing back from setbacks stronger than before. When you mentally rehearse the entire journey, not just the destination, you prepare your mind for the inevitable obstacles and program yourself to handle them with grace. Create multiple scenarios in your visualizations. Don't just imagine perfect conditions. Also see yourself succeeding when things go wrong. Visualize yourself performing brilliantly when you're tired, stressed, or facing unexpected challenges. This prepares your mind for real-world variability and builds unshakable confidence in your ability to succeed regardless of circumstances. Use all your senses in your mental rehearsals. Don't just see success. Hear it, feel it, smell it, taste it. The more sensory-rich your visualizations, the more real they become to your subconscious. If you're imagining giving a speech, feel the fabric of your clothes. Hear the sound of applause. See the bright lights. Smell the air in the room. Mental rehearsal also works for building character traits and behaviors. You can visualize yourself being more confident in social situations, more assertive in business dealings, more disciplined in your habits. See yourself responding to challenges with calmness and wisdom. Imagine yourself making decisions from a place of strength rather than fear. The reticular activating system, your brain's filtering mechanism, is programmed by what you consistently focus on mentally. When you regularly visualize success, your RA begins to notice opportunities, resources, and possibilities that align with your mental programming. You'll start seeing things you never noticed before because your brain is now looking for evidence to support your visualized reality. But mental rehearsal without action is just fantasy. You must combine your visualization practice with consistent action in the real world. Use your mental rehearsals to prepare for action, but don't substitute them for action. The goal is to arrive at each situation already having succeeded mentally. So your physical performance becomes simply a replay of what you've already experienced in your mind. Some people resist visualization because they think it's unrealistic or delusional. But consider this. You're already visualizing constantly. The question is whether you're visualizing success or failure, confidence or fear, possibility or limitation. You might as well train your mind to work for you instead of against you. Your imagination is one of the most powerful tools you possess. It's the workshop where your future is created. Every great achievement in human history began as someone's visualization. Every invention, every breakthrough, every moment of human progress started in someone's mind as a mental image of what could be possible. Stop using your imagination to rehearse your fears and start using it to rehearse your greatness. Stop mentally practicing failure and start mentally practicing success. Stop visualizing yourself small and start seeing yourself unstoppable. Your subconscious mind is waiting for new instructions. Give it a vision of success so compelling that it has no choice but to make it your reality. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Unwavering Self-Belief. Building Unbreakable Mental Habits. Belief without discipline is just wishful thinking. You can have moments of confidence, bursts of self-assurance, and flashes of certainty. But unless you develop the discipline to maintain these states consistently, they will remain temporary experiences rather than permanent transformations. True self-belief is not a feeling you have sometimes. It's a discipline you practice always. Most people treat confidence like an emotion, waiting to feel confident before taking confident action. This is backwards. Confidence is not something you feel and then act on. It's something you build through repeated acts of courage. You don't become disciplined because you feel like it. You become disciplined by acting disciplined regardless of how you feel. The same principle applies to self-belief. Unwavering self-belief is a practice, not a personality trait. It's something you do, not something you are. Every moment of every day, you're either practicing self-belief or practicing self-doubt. There is no neutral ground. You're either strengthening your confidence or weakening it, building your certainty or undermining it, reinforcing your power or giving it away. The discipline of self-belief requires you to monitor your internal dialogue constantly. Most people are completely unconscious of the conversation happening in their heads. They let their minds run on autopilot thinking whatever thoughts arise without any conscious direction. But your internal dialogue is programming your subconscious mind every moment. If you want different results, you must take control of this conversation. Start by catching yourself in negative self-talk. The moment you notice yourself thinking thoughts like, "I can't do this," "I'm not good enough," or "this won't work," stop and consciously choose a different thought. This isn't about positive thinking or lying to yourself. It's about refusing to program your mind with limitations and instead programming it with possibilities. Replace every limiting thought with an empowering one. Instead of "I can't do this," think "I'm learning how to do this." Instead of "I'm not good enough," think "I'm becoming better every day." Instead of "this won't work," think "I'll find a way to make this work." This practice requires vigilance at first, but eventually it becomes automatic. Create daily rituals that reinforce your self-belief. Just as you have rituals for physical hygiene, you need rituals for mental hygiene. Start each day by reminding yourself of your capabilities, your worth, and your potential. This isn't about reciting empty affirmations. It's about consciously programming your mind for success before the world has a chance to program it for limitation. Develop a morning routine that builds your confidence before you face any challenges. This might include reading inspiring content, reviewing your goals and achievements, practicing visualization, or simply spending a few minutes appreciating yourself. The first thoughts and feelings you experience each day set the tone for everything that follows. End each day by acknowledging your progress and wins. Before going to sleep, review what you accomplished, what you learned, and how you grew. This practice programs your subconscious mind with evidence of your capability and progress while you sleep. It ensures that your last thoughts before unconsciousness are empowering rather than limiting. Build the habit of speaking about yourself with respect and confidence. The way you describe yourself to others is heard by your own subconscious mind. If you constantly downplay your abilities, make self-deprecating jokes, or focus on your weaknesses, you're programming yourself for limitation. Instead, practice speaking about yourself with pride, confidence, and optimism. Surround yourself with physical reminders of your capabilities. Keep a success journal where you record your achievements, no matter how small. Display certificates, awards, or photos that remind you of your accomplishments. Create visual cues in your environment that reinforce your identity as a capable, successful person. Practice the discipline of immediate action. Every time you think of something you should do to advance your goals, do it immediately. If possible, this builds the neural pathway between insight and action, between intention and execution. It also creates evidence that you are someone who follows through, which strengthens your self-trust. Develop physical practices that reinforce mental strength. Your body and mind are connected in ways that neuroscience is only beginning to understand. When you practice physical discipline through exercise, proper nutrition, or even simple practices like making your bed, you build mental discipline as well. Physical strength creates mental strength. Learn to celebrate small wins with the same enthusiasm you reserve for major achievements. Most people dismiss their daily progress as insignificant, waiting for major breakthroughs before acknowledging their success. But confidence is built through the accumulation of small victories. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, overcome a small challenge, or take a step toward your goals, you're building evidence of your capability. Practice the discipline of saying no to things that don't align with your highest self. Every yes to something that diminishes you is a no to something that could elevate you. Disciplined self-belief requires protecting your energy, time, and attention from people and activities that drain your confidence or distract you from your purpose. Create accountability systems that support your self-belief practice. This might mean working with a coach, joining a mastermind group, or simply checking in regularly with someone who believes in your potential. External accountability can help you maintain your practices when your motivation wavers. Develop the discipline of learning from everything. Instead of seeing challenges as evidence that you're not capable, view them as opportunities to prove that you are. Every obstacle becomes a chance to demonstrate your resilience. Every setback becomes evidence of your ability to bounce back. Every mistake becomes a stepping stone to mastery. Remember that discipline is not about perfection. It's about consistency. You will have days when your self-belief wavers, when doubts creep in, when old patterns resurface. This doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. The discipline is in getting back to your practices quickly rather than allowing temporary lapses to become permanent patterns. The discipline of unwavering self-belief is like building muscle. It requires consistent training, progressive overload, and patience with the process. You don't become physically strong overnight and you don't become mentally invincible immediately, but every day you practice. Every choice you make to believe in yourself despite evidence to the contrary. Every moment you choose empowerment over limitation, you become stronger. Your self-belief is not at the mercy of your circumstances, your mood, or other people's opinions. It's under your complete control, but only if you exercise the discipline to maintain it consistently. Only if you treat it as a practice rather than a feeling, a choice rather than a circumstance. A discipline rather than a luxury. Chapter 8. Failure-Proof Self-Belief. Transforming setbacks into comebacks. Unstoppable people don't avoid failure, they transform it. They understand that setbacks are not evidence of inadequacy but opportunities for growth. They know that every failure contains within it the seeds of an even greater success. Most importantly, they never allow external circumstances to shake their fundamental belief in their own worth and capability. The difference between people who crumble after failure and those who come back stronger is not their circumstances. It's their interpretation of those circumstances. Failure is never actually about failure. It's about meaning. Two people can experience the exact same setback and have completely different responses based on the story they tell themselves about what happened. The person with fragile self-belief interprets failure as evidence that they're not cut out for success. They see setbacks as confirmation of their limitations, proof that they should have never tried in the first place. Each failure becomes another reason to doubt themselves, another piece of evidence in the case against their own potential. But the person with unshakable self-belief interprets failure completely differently. They see failure as feedback, as course correction, as valuable information about what doesn't work. so they can adjust their approach. They understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to success. Every setback becomes evidence of their resilience, proof that they have what it takes to persist through challenges. This difference in interpretation is not natural. It's trained. You can learn to reframe failure in ways that actually strengthen your self-belief rather than weaken it. You can develop such a powerful relationship with setbacks that you actually become grateful for them because you know they're making you stronger, smarter, and more capable. The first step in developing failure-proof self-belief is to separate your results from your identity. Your worth as a person is not determined by your performance in any single situation. You are not your failures any more than you are your successes. You are a being of infinite potential who is temporarily experiencing certain results based on your current level of skill, knowledge, and strategy. When something doesn't work out the way you planned, resist the urge to make it mean something about your fundamental capabilities. Instead of thinking "I'm not good at this," think "this approach didn't work." Instead of "I always fail," think "this strategy needs adjustment." Instead of "I'm not meant for success," think "I'm learning what success requires." Develop the habit of extracting lessons from every setback within hours of experiencing any failure. Ask yourself 3 questions. What did I learn from this experience? How can I use this information to improve my approach? What strengths did I demonstrate even in this challenging situation? This practice trains your mind to mine gold from even the most disappointing experiences. Understand that failure is often a necessary part of the success process. Most breakthrough achievements require multiple iterations, experiments, and adjustments. The Wright brothers didn't achieve flight on their first attempt. Edison didn't invent the light bulb without numerous failures. Every innovation, every breakthrough, every success story is built on a foundation of lessons learned through setbacks. Stop romanticizing the idea of overnight success. The stories you hear about people who made it quickly are usually missing crucial details about the years of preparation, the multiple failed attempts, and the countless invisible setbacks that preceded their visible success. Real success is almost always built on a foundation of failures that most people never see. Develop resilience by reframing your relationship with discomfort. Most people try to avoid the discomfort of failure. But discomfort is where growth happens. Just as physical muscles grow stronger by being stressed and challenged, mental muscles grow stronger by facing and overcoming setbacks. Instead of avoiding failure, start seeking the growth that comes from handling challenges effectively. Create a failure resume alongside your success resume. Document your setbacks, what you learned from them, and how they contributed to your eventual success. This practice helps you see failure as an investment in your future success rather than evidence against your capability. Many highly successful people report that their failures taught them more than their successes. Practice emotional regulation during setbacks. The immediate aftermath of failure often brings intense emotions like disappointment, frustration, or shame. These emotions are natural, but they don't need to define your response. Allow yourself to feel these emotions fully without suppressing them. But don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotional states. Develop a setback recovery ritual. Create a specific process you follow whenever you experience failure. This might include taking time to process emotions, analyzing what happened objectively, extracting lessons, adjusting your strategy, and then taking the next action step. Having a systematic approach to failure recovery prevents you from wallowing in disappointment and gets you back into productive action quickly. Surround yourself with people who understand that failure is part of success. If the people around you treat every setback like a catastrophe, their energy will make it harder for you to maintain perspective. Seek out relationships with people who have experienced significant setbacks and comebacks themselves. Their energy and wisdom will support your resilience during challenging times. Study the failure stories of people you admire. Read about how successful people handled their worst moments. Learn about their setbacks, their mistakes, and their recovery strategies. This practice normalizes failure and shows you that the people you most respect have all faced similar challenges. It also provides you with models for how to handle setbacks with grace and strength. Use failure as fuel for your next attempt. Instead of letting setbacks drain your energy, let them energize you stronger, wiser, and more capable. Every setback you transform into a setup for success builds your confidence in your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. Every failure you use as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block proves that you truly are unstoppable. The goal is not to avoid failure, but to become so skilled at handling it that setbacks actually increase your confidence rather than decrease it. When you develop this level of resilience, you become truly unstoppable because there's nothing that can permanently knock you down. You know that no matter what happens, you have the capability to bounce back stronger than before. Chapter 9. The Compound Effect of Unwavering Self-Belief. How small daily choices create extraordinary results. Most people dramatically underestimate the power of consistency and dramatically overestimate the power of intensity. They look for the big breakthrough, the dramatic transformation, the overnight success that will change everything instantly. But the most powerful force in personal development is not the occasional heroic effort. It's the compound effect of small consistent choices made over time. Every thought you think, every action you take, every choice you make is either moving you toward unshakable self-belief or away from it. Most of these choices seem insignificant in the moment. Choosing to believe in yourself when facing a small challenge doesn't feel life-changing. Replacing one negative thought with a positive one doesn't seem revolutionary. But these seemingly small choices compound over time to create extraordinary results. The compound effect works in both directions. Just as positive choices compound to create success, negative choices compound to create limitation. Every time you doubt yourself, you strengthen neural pathways of doubt. Every time you speak negatively about yourself, you program your subconscious for failure. Every time you give up when things get difficult, you build the habit of quitting. But when you consistently choose thoughts, actions, and behaviors that support your self-belief, something magical happens. Your confidence begins to build momentum. Your capabilities start expanding. Your results improve. Other people begin to see you differently. Most importantly, you begin to see yourself differently. The person who has been making small positive choices consistently becomes genuinely unstoppable. This is why dramatic transformation often appears to happen overnight to outside observers but actually takes years to develop. The person who suddenly becomes successful has usually been making the right choices consistently for much longer than anyone realizes. The overnight success is usually years in the making, built on a foundation of countless small decisions that compounded into extraordinary capability. The key to harnessing the compound effect is to identify the small daily choices that will have the biggest long-term impact on your self-belief. These are usually simple behaviors that are easy to do but also easy not to do because they don't create immediate dramatic results. Most people abandon them before they have a chance to compound. One of the most powerful compound choices is how you start each day. Spending the first few minutes of each morning programming your mind for success might seem insignificant, but over the course of a year, this practice shapes your entire mindset. A person who starts each day with empowering thoughts and positive expectations becomes fundamentally different from someone who starts each day in reactive mode, checking their phone, and immediately filling their mind with other people's agendas. Another crucial compound choice is how you respond to small challenges and setbacks throughout the day. Most people don't think these minor situations matter, but they're actually the building blocks of your character and confidence. Every time you choose courage over fear in a small situation, you build courage that serves you in bigger situations. Every time you persist through a minor difficulty, you strengthen your persistence muscle for major challenges. The words you use when talking to yourself compound dramatically over time. The person who consistently speaks to themselves with kindness, encouragement, and belief develops a fundamentally different relationship with themselves than someone who uses harsh, critical, or doubtful language. These internal conversations happen thousands of times per day, and their cumulative effect shapes your entire self-concept. Your physical posture and body language also compound over time. The person who consistently stands tall, makes eye contact, and moves with confidence literally rewires their brain for confidence. Your physiology influences your psychology more than most people realize. Small changes in how you carry yourself create significant changes in how you feel about yourself. The company you keep has a massive compound effect on your self-belief. Spending time with people who believe in you encourage your growth and model confidence gradually elevates your own standards and expectations. Conversely, surrounding yourself with negative, doubtful, or limited people slowly erodes your belief in what's possible. Most people underestimate how much their environment shapes their mindset over time. Your learning habits compound to create either expanding confidence or stagnating limitation. The person who reads inspiring books, listens to empowering content, and continuously expands their knowledge gradually develops an unshakable belief in their ability to learn and grow. The person who consumes negative news, gossip, and entertainment that reinforces limitation gradually programs themselves for mediocrity. The standards you set for yourself in small areas of your life compound to create overall standards of excellence or mediocrity. The person who maintains high standards in simple things like making their bed, keeping promises to themselves, and following through on commitments develops an identity as someone who honors excellence. This identity then influences their behavior in more important areas of their life. Your response to success also compounds over time. Some people sabotage themselves when things start going well because they don't believe they deserve success. Others use small wins as evidence that bigger wins are possible. The person who celebrates small victories and uses them as stepping stones to larger goals builds momentum that becomes unstoppable. The key to maximizing the compound effect is patience combined with consistency. You must trust the process even when you can't see dramatic results immediately. Most people give up on positive practices precisely when those practices are about to pay off because the compound effect is often invisible until it reaches a tipping point. Track your small daily choices to maintain awareness of their cumulative impact. Keep a simple record of whether you're making choices that support or undermine your self-belief. This tracking creates accountability and helps you see patterns that might otherwise be invisible. You can't manage what you don't measure. Focus on systems rather than goals. While goals are important for direction, systems are what create lasting change. Instead of focusing solely on the outcome you want to achieve, focus on building the daily practices that will inevitably lead to that outcome. The person who builds a system of daily confidence-building practices will develop unshakable self-belief as a natural byproduct. Remember that the compound effect applies to every area of your life simultaneously. As your self-belief grows stronger, it improves your relationships, your career performance, your health habits, and every other aspect of your experience. The confidence you build in one area spills over into all areas. The momentum becomes self-reinforcing, creating an upward spiral of continuous growth and expansion. The choices you make today seem small, but they're actually shaping the person you'll become tomorrow. Choose thoughts that strengthen your self-belief. Choose actions that demonstrate your capability. Choose relationships that support your growth. Choose standards that elevate your existence. These seemingly insignificant choices will compound over time to create an unstoppable version of yourself that your current self can barely imagine. Chapter 10. Becoming Mentally Invincible. The Unbreakable Mindset That Nothing Can Shake. There comes a moment in the journey of self-belief when you cross a threshold. On one side of this threshold, your confidence is still dependent on circumstances. On the other side, your self-belief becomes absolutely unshakable, completely independent of external conditions. You become mentally invincible, possessing a certainty about your worth and capabilities that nothing and no one can destroy. Mental invincibility is not about being unrealistic or delusional. It's not about believing you're perfect or that you'll never face challenges. It's about developing such a deep, unshakable knowing of your own resilience, adaptability, and inherent worth that external circumstances lose their power to diminish you. You know with absolute certainty that regardless of what happens, you will handle it, learn from it, and emerge stronger. The mentally invincible person understands that they are not their circumstances. They know that their value doesn't fluctuate based on their current results, other people's opinions, or temporary setbacks. They have developed an internal anchor that keeps them steady regardless of the storms raging around them. This anchor is not hope or optimism. It's knowledge. They know who they are and what they're capable of at the deepest level. This unbreakable mindset is built on several foundational pillars. The first pillar is self-acceptance. The mentally invincible person has made peace with their humanity. They accept their flaws, acknowledge their mistakes, and embrace their imperfections without letting these human qualities diminish their fundamental sense of worth. They understand that worthiness is not earned through perfection, but inherent in existence. The second pillar is outcome independence. While the mentally invincible person is committed to their goals and works tirelessly to achieve them, they are not attached to specific outcomes for their sense of identity or worth. They know that their value is not determined by whether they get the job, win the competition, or achieve the result they're seeking. This freedom from attachment paradoxically makes success more likely while removing the desperation that often sabotages achievement. The third pillar is radical responsibility. The mentally invincible person takes complete ownership of their experience without falling into victim mentality or blame. They understand that while they cannot control everything that happens to them, they can control their response to everything that happens. This level of responsibility is empowering rather than burdensome because it places their power firmly in their own hands. The fourth pillar is anti-fragility. This concept, popularized by Nassim Taleb, describes systems that don't just resist stress but actually grow stronger from it. The mentally invincible person has become antifragile. Challenges don't just fail to break them. Challenges actually make them stronger, wiser, and more capable. They have learned to extract strength from struggle, wisdom from adversity, and power from pressure. The fifth pillar is present moment awareness. Mental invincibility requires being fully present rather than lost in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future. The mentally invincible person knows that all their power exists in the present moment. They make decisions, take actions, and direct their energy from a place of present moment clarity rather than past conditioning or future worry. To develop this level of mental invincibility, you must systematically eliminate every remaining source of external dependency for your self-worth. Notice where your confidence still wavers based on outside circumstances. Pay attention to which people, situations, or outcomes still have the power to shake your self-belief. These are the areas where your mental strength still needs development. Practice worst-case scenario acceptance. Instead of avoiding thoughts about what could go wrong, deliberately imagine your worst fears coming true and then imagine yourself handling those situations with strength and grace. This practice removes the power that potential future problems have over your present peace of mind. When you know you can handle anything, nothing can shake you. Develop a deep relationship with your core values. Mental invincibility comes from knowing what you stand for regardless of external pressure. When your actions are aligned with your deepest values, you develop an unshakable internal compass that guides you regardless of what others think or how circumstances change. You become willing to lose everything external rather than compromise what's essential internally. Build evidence of your resilience by reflecting on everything you've already overcome. Most people focus on their current challenges and forget about all the difficulties they've already successfully navigated. Create a comprehensive inventory of every major challenge, setback, and obstacle you've overcome in your life. This evidence proves that you have what it takes to handle whatever comes next. Practice voluntary discomfort to strengthen your mental resilience. Take cold showers, exercise intensely, fast occasionally, or engage in other challenging but beneficial activities. This practice teaches your mind that you can handle discomfort willingly, which makes involuntary discomfort much less threatening. You develop confidence in your ability to thrive regardless of conditions. Cultivate a deep spiritual or philosophical foundation. Mental invincibility often requires connecting with something larger than your individual ego. This might be a spiritual practice, a philosophical framework, or a sense of purpose that transcends personal gain. When your identity is rooted in something eternal and unshakable, temporary circumstances lose their power to disturb your peace. Develop supreme confidence in your ability to learn and adapt. The mentally invincible person doesn't need to know how to handle every possible situation. They just need to trust their ability to figure it out when the time comes. This confidence in your learning ability makes you incredibly resilient because you know that even if you don't have the answer now, you can acquire it. Practice emotional mastery until your internal state becomes completely self-determined. The mentally invincible person generates their own emotions. Rather than having emotions imposed by circumstances, they can access confidence, joy, determination, or any other state they need regardless of what's happening around them. This emotional self-sufficiency is perhaps the most powerful aspect of mental invincibility. Remember that mental invincibility is not a destination, but a continuous practice. Even the most mentally strong people have moments of doubt or difficulty. The difference is that they have developed the tools and practices to return to their center quickly. They don't expect to never be challenged. They expect to handle every challenge from a place of inner strength. When you become mentally invincible, you don't just believe in yourself. You know yourself. You know your worth, your capability, your resilience and your power. This knowing is not dependent on proof or evidence. It exists independent of external validation. You have become unshakable not because nothing affects you but because you have developed the ability to remain centered regardless of what affects you. This is the ultimate goal of forcing yourself to believe in yourself. Not just temporary confidence or situational self-assurance, but complete mental invincibility. When you reach this state, you truly become unstoppable because there is nothing external that can permanently diminish your inner strength. You have become the source of your own power and that source can never be taken away from you. Chapter 11. Advanced Self-Belief Strategies. Elite Mental Training for Extraordinary Confidence. The techniques that got you to basic self-belief will not get you to unshakable confidence. Just as athletes must advance from basic training to elite-level conditioning, your mental training must evolve to more sophisticated strategies as your self-belief grows stronger. The advanced practitioner of self-belief operates from strategies that most people never even consider. Techniques that create such profound internal certainty that external circumstances become completely irrelevant. The first advanced strategy is identity forecasting. Most people base their identity on their past experiences and current circumstances. But the mentally elite base their identity on their future potential. They live from who they are becoming rather than who they have been. This requires a complete shift in temporal perspective. Instead of asking who am I based on my history, you ask who am I becoming based on my trajectory. Identity forecasting means making decisions today from the identity you will have in 5 years. The person you are becoming would handle current challenges differently than the person you have been. They would think different thoughts, make different choices and expect different outcomes. When you consistently operate from your future identity, you accelerate your transformation dramatically because you are no longer limited by past programming. The second advanced strategy is stress inoculation training. This technique used by military special forces and elite performers involves deliberately exposing yourself to controlled stress to build unshakable confidence under pressure. Most people avoid stressful situations. But stress is where confidence is forged. You cannot develop genuine confidence in comfortable conditions because comfort never tests your capabilities. Create a systematic program of stress exposure that gradually increases your capacity to perform under pressure. This might mean speaking in front of larger audiences, taking on more challenging projects, or putting yourself in situations where failure is possible. The goal is not to seek stress for its own sake, but to build such confidence in your ability to handle pressure that no situation can intimidate you. The third advanced strategy is quantum confidence building. This involves developing confidence not just in your current abilities, but in your infinite capacity to develop any ability you need. Most people think confidence must be based on existing skills. But quantum confidence is based on your learning potential. You become confident not because you already know everything, but because you trust your ability to learn anything. This requires shifting from a fixed mindset to what psychologists call a growth mindset on steroids. You don't just believe you can improve. You know that any limitation you currently experience is simply a temporary skill gap that can be closed through focused effort. This level of confidence makes you truly unstoppable because there is no challenge you cannot eventually overcome through learning and development. The fourth advanced strategy is meta-confidence, which is confidence in your confidence. Many people experience fluctuating self-belief because they doubt their own inner strength. Meta-confidence means you trust your ability to maintain your confidence regardless of circumstances. You know that even if you have moments of doubt, you have the tools and practices to return to certainty quickly. Develop meta-confidence by proving to yourself repeatedly that you can rebuild your confidence after setbacks. Each time you recover from doubt, you strengthen your confidence in your confidence. Eventually, you become so certain of your ability to maintain inner strength that temporary fluctuations in confidence become meaningless. You know you will always find your way back to your center. The fifth advanced strategy is reality distortion field creation. This term, originally used to describe Steve Jobs' ability to convince others that impossible things were possible, refers to your ability to create such powerful belief in your vision that it begins to reshape external reality. When your self-belief reaches this level, you literally change what others believe is possible, attracting resources, opportunities, and support that align with your unshakable certainty. This is not about manipulation or delusion. It's about developing such authentic confidence in your capabilities that others begin to see possibilities they previously missed. Your certainty becomes contagious, inspiring others to believe in what you're creating. This collective belief creates momentum that makes seemingly impossible goals inevitable. The sixth advanced strategy is temporal confidence mastery. Most people's confidence fluctuates based on their current circumstances or recent experiences. Advanced practitioners develop the ability to access confidence from any time period. They can draw strength from future achievements they haven't yet accomplished, past victories they've already won, or present moment awareness of their inherent worth. Practice moving your consciousness through time to access confidence from different sources. When facing a current challenge, imagine how confident you'll feel after overcoming it. Connect with the satisfaction and strength of that future moment and bring that energy into your present experience. This technique allows you to access the confidence you need from any temporal perspective. The seventh advanced strategy is dimensional confidence expansion. This involves developing confidence across all dimensions of your existence simultaneously. Most people have confidence in some areas but not others. They might be confident professionally but insecure personally, or confident intellectually but doubting emotionally. Advanced confidence is integrated across all aspects of your being. Work systematically to eliminate confidence gaps in any area of your life. If you're confident in business but insecure in relationships, apply the same principles that created business confidence to your personal life. If you're confident physically but doubt your intellectual abilities, recognize that the same mental strength that built your body can develop your mind. Integrated confidence creates unshakable self-belief because there are no weak spots for doubt to exploit. The eighth advanced strategy is confidence cascading. This involves using moments of peak confidence to program future confidence automatically during times when your self-belief is particularly strong. Create anchors that you can trigger later when you need confidence in challenging situations. These might be physical gestures, mental phrases, or emotional states that you associate with your strongest moments. Practice accessing these confidence anchors in progressively more challenging situations until they become automatic responses to pressure. Eventually, you develop the ability to instantly access peak confidence states regardless of circumstances. This creates reliability in your self-belief that makes you completely dependable in high-pressure situations. The ninth advanced strategy is confidence immunity building. Just as your body can develop immunity to diseases through controlled exposure, your confidence can develop immunity to doubt through systematic exposure to confidence challenges. This involves deliberately seeking situations that test your self-belief and proving to yourself repeatedly that your confidence can withstand any assault. Each time you maintain your self-belief despite external pressure, criticism or setbacks, you build immunity to future confidence challenges. Eventually, you become so immune to doubt that nothing external can shake your inner certainty. Your confidence becomes antifragile, actually growing stronger when challenged rather than being weakened by adversity. These advanced strategies require commitment and consistent practice, but they create levels of self-belief that most people consider impossible. They transform confidence from an emotional state into an unshakable identity, from a temporary feeling into a permanent way of being. When you master these techniques, you don't just believe in yourself powerfully. You become the kind of person that others automatically believe in as well. Chapter 12. Handling critics and doubters. Bulletproof confidence in a world of negativity. The moment you begin to believe in yourself powerfully, you will encounter resistance from the world around you. People who have accepted limitation as normal will be threatened by your refusal to accept the same limitations. Those who have settled for mediocrity will be uncomfortable with your pursuit of excellence. Critics and doubters will emerge from unexpected places, often including people you thought supported you. This resistance is not personal. Even though it may feel personal, it's psychological. Your growth challenges other people's excuses. Your confidence makes their insecurities more apparent. Your refusal to accept limitation forces them to confront their own self-imposed boundaries. Some people will react to your transformation with negativity not because they want you to fail, but because your success makes them question their own choices. Understanding this dynamic is crucial because it allows you to respond to criticism strategically rather than emotionally. When someone doubts your abilities or questions your goals, they are usually revealing more about their own limitations than they are about yours. Their doubt is projection, not perception. Their criticism is commentary on their own fears, not accurate assessment of your potential. The first principle of handling critics is to consider the source. Not all opinions are equal. The opinion of someone who has achieved what you want to achieve carries different weight than the opinion of someone who has never attempted anything significant. The criticism of someone who believes in growth and possibility differs fundamentally from the criticism of someone who has accepted limitation as permanent. Ask yourself whether the person criticizing you is someone you would want to trade lives with. If the answer is no, their opinion about your choices becomes irrelevant. You don't take financial advice from broke people, relationship advice from people in toxic relationships, or fitness advice from unhealthy people. Why would you take confidence advice from people who doubt themselves? The second principle is to separate feedback from attack. Genuine feedback is specific, actionable, and offered with the intent to help you improve. It focuses on behaviors or strategies, not on your fundamental worth or potential. Attacks, on the other hand, are general, destructive, and designed to make you doubt yourself. They target your character, your dreams, or your right to pursue excellence. Learn to welcome genuine feedback while completely ignoring attacks. Feedback helps you grow stronger. Attacks only help you practice maintaining your confidence under pressure. When someone offers genuine feedback, thank them and evaluate whether their suggestions can help you improve. When someone attacks you, recognize it as information about their own pain and let it pass through you without attachment. The third principle is the armor of outcome independence. The most bulletproof protection against criticism is not needing external approval for your sense of worth. When your confidence is internally generated rather than externally validated, criticism loses its power to wound you. You can listen to other people's opinions without being controlled by them. Develop such strong internal validation that external opinions become merely interesting information rather than sources of emotional disruption. This doesn't mean becoming closed-minded or dismissive. It means becoming so secure in your own worth that you can consider criticism objectively without it threatening your fundamental sense of self. The fourth principle is the redirect strategy. Instead of defending yourself against criticism, redirect the energy toward your goals. Criticism often contains useful information about obstacles you might face or areas where you need to improve your strategy. Use the criticism as fuel for your growth rather than as reason for self-doubt. When someone says you can't achieve something, ask yourself what they might know about the challenges ahead that could help you prepare better. When someone doubts your abilities, consider whether there are skills you could develop to make success more inevitable. Transform every criticism into strategic intelligence that makes you stronger and more prepared. The fifth principle is the high road response. Never respond to criticism with defensive anger, hurt feelings or counterattacks. These responses give critics power over your emotional state and often escalate conflicts unnecessarily. Instead, respond from a place of strength, grace, and confidence in your own path. Thank people for their concern. Acknowledge their perspective without accepting their conclusions and calmly continue pursuing your goals. This response often disarms critics because it doesn't give them the emotional reaction they might be seeking. More importantly, it maintains your integrity and demonstrates the unshakable confidence you're developing. The sixth principle is the spotlight effect awareness. Most people drastically overestimate how much attention others pay to their actions and choices. This cognitive bias, known as the spotlight effect, makes us think everyone is watching and judging us constantly. In reality, most people are far too concerned with their own lives to spend much time thinking about yours. The criticism you receive is usually a tiny fraction of what you imagine you might receive. Most people are either supportive, neutral, or too busy with their own concerns to form strong opinions about your choices. Don't let fear of imaginary criticism prevent you from pursuing real dreams. The seventh principle is the critics as teachers strategy. Sometimes your harshest critics accidentally become your greatest teachers by showing you exactly what you need to work on. They often identify weaknesses in your strategy, gaps in your preparation, or areas where you haven't communicated your vision clearly enough. Instead of resenting critics, thank them for pointing out areas where you can improve. This mental shift transforms adversarial relationships into educational opportunities. You stop seeing critics as enemies and start seeing them as unpaid consultants who are showing you how to become stronger. The eighth principle is the long-term perspective. Most criticism focuses on short-term concerns or temporary setbacks. Critics often judge your potential based on current circumstances rather than future possibilities. Maintain perspective about the temporary nature of current conditions and the permanent nature of your commitment to growth. When facing criticism, ask yourself whether this person's opinion will matter in 5 years. Will their doubt prevent you from achieving your goals? Will their negativity change your fundamental capacity for growth? Usually, the answer is no. Keep your eyes on your long-term vision rather than getting distracted by short-term noise. The ninth principle is building a support network that counterbalances negativity. Surround yourself with people who believe in growth, possibility, and your specific potential. These relationships provide emotional support when facing criticism and remind you of the truth about your capabilities when doubt tries to creep in. Actively cultivate relationships with people who have achieved what you want to achieve, who understand the challenges of pursuing excellence, and who celebrate your growth rather than questioning it. This support network becomes a psychological fortress that protects your confidence from external attacks. Remember that criticism is often a sign that you're making progress. People rarely criticize those who are playing small or pursuing mediocre goals. The fact that you're encountering resistance means you're attempting something significant enough to threaten the status quo. Criticism becomes evidence of your growth rather than reason to doubt your path. Use every critic as an opportunity to practice unshakable confidence. Each time you maintain your self-belief despite external doubt, you prove to yourself that your confidence is bulletproof. Each time you stay focused on your goals despite negativity, you strengthen your immunity to future criticism. Critics become unwitting partners in your confidence development, providing the resistance necessary to build unshakable inner strength. Chapter 13. Creating your unstoppable identity. The person you must become to achieve everything you want. Your current identity is the invisible ceiling on your potential. No matter how much you want to achieve, how hard you work, or how many strategies you learn, you will never permanently rise above your own self-concept. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you will find ways to struggle. If you believe you are limited, you will unconsciously limit yourself. If your identity is small, your results will be small regardless of your conscious efforts. But identity is not fixed. It's not determined by your past, your circumstances, or even your current capabilities. Identity is a choice, a decision about who you will be regardless of who you have been. The moment you consciously choose to embody the identity of an unstoppable person, you begin the process of becoming that person in reality. Your unstoppable identity is not who you are now. It's who you must become to achieve everything you want. It's the version of yourself that already exists in potential, waiting for you to step into it fully. This identity already knows how to handle the challenges you're currently facing. It already possesses the confidence you're trying to develop. It already embodies the success you're working to achieve. The first step in creating your unstoppable identity is to get crystal clear about the characteristics of this person. How does your unstoppable self think differently than your current self? What beliefs do they hold that you don't yet hold? How do they speak to themselves? How do they handle setbacks? What standards do they maintain? How do they treat others? How do they treat themselves? Write a detailed description of your unstoppable identity. Don't limit yourself to realistic expectations based on your current circumstances. Describe the person you would become if you had unlimited confidence, unlimited capabilities, and unlimited support. This is not fantasy, it's potential. Every human being has access to extraordinary capabilities when they remove the psychological limitations that constrain their expression. Your unstoppable identity operates from fundamentally different assumptions than your current identity. Where your current self might think, "I hope this works out." Your unstoppable self thinks, "I will make this work." Where your current self sees problems, your unstoppable self sees opportunities. Where your current self feels fear, your unstoppable self feels excitement about growth. These different ways of thinking are not just optimistic perspectives. They are identity-level programs that determine your automatic responses to life's situations. When you truly embody your unstoppable identity, you don't have to consciously choose confident thoughts. They arise naturally from who you are being. You don't have to force yourself to take action. Action becomes the natural expression of your identity. The process of identity transformation requires what psychologists call identity rehearsal. This means practicing being your unstoppable self in small low-risk situations until it becomes natural to embody this identity in larger, more challenging circumstances. Every time you act from your unstoppable identity rather than your current limitations, you strengthen the neural pathways that support your new self-concept. Start by identifying one characteristic of your unstoppable identity and practicing it consistently for 1 week. If your unstoppable self is incredibly disciplined, practice perfect discipline in small areas. If your unstoppable self speaks with confidence, practice confident communication in everyday interactions. If your unstoppable self maintains high standards, practice maintaining those standards in minor situations. Each week, add another characteristic until you are consistently embodying your unstoppable identity across all areas of your life. This gradual approach allows your nervous system to adjust to the new identity without triggering massive resistance from your subconscious mind. You become unstoppable through practice, not through overnight transformation. Your unstoppable identity also requires upgrading your standards across every area of your life. The person who accepts mediocrity in small things will struggle to achieve excellence in important things. Your identity is formed by the standards you maintain consistently, not the goals you set occasionally. If you want to become unstoppable, You must raise your standards to unstoppable levels. This means eliminating anything from your life that reinforces limitation or mediocrity. Stop consuming content that celebrates average thinking. Stop engaging in conversations that focus on problems rather than solutions. Stop accepting behavior from yourself or others that doesn't align with your unstoppable identity. Every compromise you make in your standards weakens your identity. Your physical environment should reflect your unstoppable identity. Organize your living and working spaces to support peak performance. Surround yourself with visual reminders of your capabilities and achievements. Dress in a way that makes you feel powerful and confident. Your environment programs your subconscious mind constantly. So, make sure it's programming you for success rather than limitation. Your social environment is even more crucial than your physical environment. You cannot maintain an unstoppable identity while surrounding yourself with people who think small, complain constantly, or accept limitation as normal. Their energy will pull you back to your old identity. Regardless of your conscious efforts to transform, actively seek relationships with people who embody the characteristics you want to develop. Study how they think, speak, and act. Model their approaches to challenges and opportunities. Ask them about their mindset and strategies. Your brain is constantly absorbing patterns from the people around you. So make sure those patterns support your unstoppable identity rather than undermining it. Your unstoppable identity must be reinforced through consistent action. Identity is not just how you think about yourself. It's how you show up in the world. Every action you take either reinforces your new identity or pulls you back to your old patterns. There is no neutral ground. You are either becoming more unstoppable or more limited with every choice you make. Make decisions from your unstoppable identity rather than your current limitations. Ask yourself, what would my unstoppable self do in this situation? And then do that regardless of how uncomfortable it might feel initially. This practice of identity-based decision-making gradually transforms your automatic responses until acting from your unstoppable identity becomes natural. Your unstoppable identity also requires a different relationship with time. Limited people think in terms of short-term comfort and long-term consequences. Unstoppable people think in terms of short-term investment and long-term vision. They are willing to sacrifice immediate comfort for future capability, immediate pleasure for future power, immediate ease for future excellence. Start making choices based on who you are becoming rather than who you have been. This temporal shift in decision-making accelerates your transformation because you start living from your potential rather than your past. Every choice becomes an investment in your unstoppable future rather than a reflection of your limited history. Remember that your unstoppable identity is not a mask you wear or a role you play. It's the authentic expression of your highest potential. You are not becoming someone else. You are becoming who you truly are beneath all the conditioning, programming, and limitations that have kept you small. Your unstoppable self is your real self, freed from artificial constraints and expressing its natural magnificence. The moment you fully commit to embodying your unstoppable identity, everything changes. Your problems become opportunities. Your obstacles become stepping stones. Your challenges become chances to demonstrate your capabilities. You stop asking whether you can handle what life throws at you and start knowing that you can handle anything because that's who you are. You become unstoppable not as something you achieve but as someone you are. Chapter 14. Living from Unshakable Self-Belief. The daily reality of the truly confident. When self-belief becomes unshakable, it transforms from something you have to something you are. It stops being a temporary state you access during peak moments and becomes your permanent way of existing in the world. This transformation changes everything about how you experience life, how you approach challenges, and how you interact with others. You operate from a fundamentally different reality than people who still doubt themselves. The person living from unshakable self-belief wakes up each day with absolute certainty about their worth and capabilities. This is not arrogance or delusion. It's a deep knowing that transcends circumstances. They know that regardless of what happens during the day, they have the internal resources to handle it effectively. This knowledge creates a calm confidence that others can sense immediately. Their morning routine reflects this inner certainty. Instead of starting the day by checking their phone to see what everyone else is doing, they begin by connecting with their own vision and purpose. They don't seek external validation or approval to feel good about themselves. Their energy comes from within, generated by their connection to their own power and potential. Throughout the day, challenges arise just as they do for everyone else. But the person with unshakable self-belief interprets these challenges completely differently. Where others see problems, they see opportunities to demonstrate their capabilities. Where others feel stress, they feel excitement about growth. Where others worry about failure, they anticipate learning and eventual success. Their internal dialogue sounds nothing like the self-doubt and criticism that plagues most people. They speak to themselves with the same respect, encouragement, and belief they would offer their best friend. When they make mistakes, they view them as valuable feedback rather than evidence of inadequacy. When they face setbacks, they see temporary obstacles rather than permanent limitations. This person makes decisions quickly and confidently because they trust their judgment completely. They don't second-guess themselves endlessly or seek endless opinions from others. They gather relevant information, consider their options, make a decision, and then commit fully to that decision. If the decision proves suboptimal, they adjust course without self-remation. Their relationship with fear is completely transformed. Instead of avoiding situations that make them nervous, they move toward them with curiosity and excitement. They understand that fear often signals opportunity and growth potential. They feel fear just like everyone else, but they interpret it as energy for action rather than reason for avoidance. In social interactions, their unshakable self-belief creates a magnetic presence. They don't seek approval or validation from others because they already approve of themselves completely. This freedom from neediness makes them incredibly attractive to others. People are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin and confident in their own worth. They express their thoughts and opinions freely without apologizing for having them. They don't hedge their statements with qualifying language or diminish their ideas to make others more comfortable. They speak with conviction because they believe in their right to have and express their thoughts. This authentic self-expression inspires others to be more authentic as well. Their response to criticism demonstrates their unshakable foundation. When someone doubts their abilities or questions their choices, they listen for useful information without being emotionally disrupted by the negativity. They can consider feedback objectively because their sense of worth is not threatened by other people's opinions. They thank people for their input and then make their own decisions based on their own judgment. The person with unshakable self-belief sets boundaries effortlessly because they value themselves completely. They don't allow others to treat them poorly, waste their time, or drain their energy. They say no to requests that don't align with their priorities without feeling guilty or needing to overexplain their decisions. Their self-respect is non-negotiable. Their approach to goals and ambitions is characterized by absolute certainty about eventual success. They don't hope they will achieve their objectives. They know they will. This certainty is not based on external evidence but on internal knowledge of their own persistence, adaptability and growth capacity. They understand that failure is temporary but their commitment to success is permanent. When facing major challenges or pursuing significant goals, they break everything down into manageable steps and then execute consistently without drama. They don't waste energy worrying about outcomes. They cannot control problems that may never occur. They focus their energy on the actions they can take today to move closer to their objectives. Their relationship with money, success, and achievement is healthy and abundant. They believe they deserve good things not because they are perfect, but because they exist. They pursue success enthusiastically without guilt or apology. They understand that their success contributes value to the world rather than taking something away from others. The person living from unshakable self-belief also maintains deep humility and compassion for others. Their confidence is not comparative. It doesn't require others to be small for them to feel large. They celebrate other people's successes genuinely because they know there is unlimited success available to everyone. Their security in their own worth allows them to support others generously. They handle both success and failure with equal grace. When they achieve something significant, they celebrate appropriately without becoming inflated or arrogant. When they experience setbacks, they process the emotions without becoming defeated or self-critical. They maintain their equilibrium regardless of external circumstances because their center is internal. Their energy throughout the day remains stable and positive because it's generated from within rather than extracted from external sources. They don't need constant encouragement, validation, or entertainment to maintain their motivation. They find joy in the process of growth and contribution regardless of immediate results. As they prepare for sleep each evening, they review their day with satisfaction and gratitude. They acknowledge their efforts, celebrate their progress, and prepare their subconscious mind for continued growth. During sleep, they fall asleep with certainty that tomorrow will bring new opportunities to express their capabilities and contribute value to the world. This is not a fantasy or an unrealistic ideal. This is how life actually feels and functions when you develop genuine, unshakable self-belief. Every aspect of your experience transforms when you know with absolute certainty that you are valuable, capable, and destined for success. This way of living becomes your natural expression when you complete the journey from self-doubt to unshakable confidence. The gap between where you are now and this reality is not as large as you might think. It's simply a matter of consistent practice, gradual transformation, and unwavering commitment to your own growth. Every day you choose to believe in yourself more powerfully. Every moment you act from confidence rather than fear. Every decision you make from your potential rather than your limitations brings you closer to this unshakable reality. Chapter 15. The Unstoppable You. Your complete transformation and unlimited future. You began this journey as someone who hoped to believe in yourself more. You are ending it as someone who knows with absolute certainty that you are unstoppable. This transformation is not temporary or fragile. It is permanent and unshakable because you have not just learned techniques. You have fundamentally rewired your brain, restructured your identity, and rebuilt your relationship with your own potential. The person you were when you started listening to this content no longer exists. That person was limited by self-doubt, constrained by fear, and trapped in old patterns of thinking that kept them small. The person you have become operates from completely different assumptions about what is possible, what you deserve, and what you are capable of achieving. You now understand that self-belief is not a feeling but a decision. You don't wait to feel confident before taking confident action. You take confident action to build confidence. You don't hope you are capable. You know you are capable because capability is developed through consistent practice and persistent effort. You don't wonder if you deserve success. You know you deserve it because you exist and you are willing to work for it. Your brain has been completely rewired through the techniques you have learned and practiced. The neural pathways that once supported self-doubt have been weakened through disuse. The neural pathways that support unshakable confidence have been strengthened through consistent activation. Your subconscious mind now automatically generates thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that align with your unstoppable identity. You have developed mental habits that make confidence inevitable. Your internal dialogue reinforces your capabilities rather than undermining them. Your visualization practices program your mind for success rather than failure. Your daily routines build evidence of your discipline and commitment. Your response to challenges demonstrates your resilience and growth mindset. The fears that once paralyzed you have become sources of excitement and growth. You understand that fear simply indicates the direction of your next breakthrough. Instead of avoiding what scares you, you move toward it with curiosity and anticipation. You know that courage is not the absence of fear but action in spite of fear. And you have proven your courage to yourself repeatedly. You no longer seek validation from others because you generate all the validation you need internally. Other people's opinions have become interesting information rather than sources of emotional disruption. You can receive praise without being inflated and criticism without being deflated because your sense of worth is internally determined and unshakably stable. Your relationship with failure has been completely transformed. You no longer fear failure because you understand that failure is feedback, not finality. Every setback becomes a setup for a comeback. Every mistake becomes a learning opportunity. Every challenge becomes proof of your resilience and adaptability. You have become antifragile, growing stronger from stress rather than being weakened by it. The standards you maintain in every area of your life reflect your unstoppable identity. You no longer accept mediocrity from yourself or others. You pursue excellence not because you are trying to prove something but because excellence is the natural expression of your true potential. Your high standards elevate everyone around you and attract opportunities that match your elevated vibration. Your goals and ambitions have expanded exponentially because you no longer limit them based on past experience or current circumstances. You dream bigger because you know that your capacity to achieve is unlimited when combined with proper strategy, persistent effort, and unshakable belief. You set goals that excite and challenge you rather than goals that feel safe and comfortable. The compound effect of all your new mental habits has created momentum that makes success inevitable. Every day you become more confident, more capable, and more unstoppable. This momentum feeds on itself, creating an upward spiral of continuous growth and expansion that will continue for the rest of your life. Your presence in the world has changed completely. People respond to you differently because you show up differently. Your confidence is magnetic, attracting opportunities, relationships, and resources that align with your elevated identity. You inspire others simply by being yourself because your unshakable self-belief reminds them of their own unlimited potential. The vision you have for your future is no longer a hope, but an inevitability. You don't wonder if you will achieve your goals. You know you will. This certainty is not based on external guarantees but on internal knowledge of your own persistence, adaptability, and growth capacity. You understand that success is not a destination but a way of traveling, and you have learned to travel with absolute confidence in your ability to handle whatever the journey brings. You have become the person you always knew you could be but were afraid to become. You have stepped fully into your power without apology or hesitation. You own your worth, claim your space, and express your potential without seeking permission from anyone. You are the author of your own story. And you are writing a story of triumph, growth, and unlimited possibility. But this is not the end of your transformation. It is the beginning of your unlimited future. The confidence you have developed is not a fixed asset but a growing capacity. The self-belief you have built is not a destination but a launching pad. The unstoppable identity you have created is not a final achievement but a foundation for even greater achievements to come. Your future is now limited only by your willingness to dream big and your commitment to persistent action. There is no goal too large, no vision too ambitious, no dream too unrealistic for the unstoppable person you have become. You have proven to yourself that you can transform completely, which means you can continue transforming in whatever direction you choose. The world needs the unstoppable version of yourself. Your unique combination of talents, experiences, and perspectives can contribute value that no one else can provide. Your unshakable confidence gives you the courage to share your gifts boldly and make the impact you were born to make. You are no longer hoping to become someone extraordinary. You have already become extraordinary. You are no longer working toward unshakable confidence. You have already developed unshakable confidence. You are no longer trying to believe in yourself. You have already forced yourself to believe in yourself so completely that doubt is no longer possible. You are unstoppable. This is not a future possibility but a present reality. This is not something you hope to become but something you already are. This is not a temporary state but a permanent transformation. You have crossed the threshold from limitation to limitlessness, from doubt to certainty, from fear to power. Your journey of transformation continues. But it continues from a position of strength rather than weakness, certainty rather than doubt, power rather than limitation. You are unstoppable, and your unstoppable future begins right now in this moment with your next thought, your next decision, your next action. The world will never be the same because you are in it fully present, completely confident, and absolutely unstoppable. This is who you are. This is what you have become. This is your reality now and forever. Most people think discipline is about forcing yourself to do things you hate. They believe it's about gritting your teeth, pushing through pain, and relying on willpower to drag yourself toward your goals. But what if I told you that everything you've been taught about discipline is completely wrong? What if discipline isn't about forcing yourself at all? What if the most disciplined people in the world, the elite athletes, the billionaire entrepreneurs, the master craftsmen don't actually rely on willpower? What if they've discovered something that most people never learn? How to trick their brain into craving the very things that lead to success. The truth is, your brain can be rewired. It can be programmed to love discipline instead of resist it. And once you understand how to do this, everything changes. You stop fighting yourself and start working with your natural psychology. You stop relying on motivation and start building systems that make discipline feel effortless. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly how to reprogram your brain's reward system, how to make hard work feel like play, and how to build such powerful mental associations that discipline becomes as automatic as breathing. You'll learn the neuroscience secrets that elite performers use to make their toughest challenges feel like their greatest pleasures. This isn't about more willpower. This is about less willpower. This is about making your brain work for you instead of against you. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Willpower Myth. Why Force Never Works. Here's the brutal truth that no one wants to admit. Willpower is finite, unreliable, and completely overrated. Every single day, millions of people try to change their lives through pure force of will. And every single day, they fail. They set alarms to wake up early and hit snooze. They promise themselves they'll eat healthy and order takeout by dinner. They swear they'll stick to their workout routine and quit after a week. And then they blame themselves. They think they're weak. They think they lack character. They think they're broken. But the real problem isn't them. It's that they're using the wrong strategy entirely. Science has proven beyond any doubt that willpower operates like a muscle. It gets fatigued with use. Every decision you make, every temptation you resist, every moment you force yourself to do something you don't want to do drains your willpower reserves. And once those reserves are depleted, you're running on empty. Think about it this way. If you spend your entire morning forcing yourself through tasks you hate, what mental energy do you have left for the gym after work? If you resist junk food all day through sheer determination, how strong is your resolve going to be when you're tired and stressed at night? The answer is not very strong at all. This is why most people's discipline completely falls apart by evening. This is why weekend habits are so different from weekday habits. This is why people can be incredibly disciplined in one area of their life and completely undisciplined in another. They're relying on a limited resource and that resource runs out. But here's what the most successful people understand. They don't rely on willpower at all. Instead, they've learned to hack their brain's natural reward system. They've discovered how to make their brain crave the actions that lead to success. They've turned discipline from an uphill battle into a downhill slide. Your brain is constantly seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. This is hardwired into your neural circuitry. You can't fight it and you can't change it, but you can use it. Instead of trying to force yourself to do things your brain hates, you can train your brain to love the things that are good for you. This happens through a process called conditioning. Every time you do something, your brain creates associations. If you consistently pair an action with pleasure, your brain begins to crave that action. If you consistently pair an action with pain or boredom, your brain begins to resist it. Most people accidentally condition themselves to hate discipline. They associate working out with suffering, eating healthy with deprivation, and working hard with misery. No wonder they can't stick to anything. Their own brain is working against them. But when you understand how conditioning works, you can flip the script entirely. You can condition yourself to love the gym by focusing on how amazing you feel afterward. You can condition yourself to love healthy food by paying attention to the energy it gives you. You can condition yourself to love hard work by celebrating every small win along the way. The key is understanding that your brain doesn't distinguish between what's objectively good or bad for you. It only cares about what feels rewarding in the moment. And feelings of reward can be cultivated, trained, and programmed. Once you learn how to do this, discipline stops being about force and becomes about attraction. This is why some people seem to effortlessly maintain habits that others struggle with. It's not because they have more willpower. It's because they've accidentally or intentionally conditioned themselves to enjoy those habits. Their brain has learned to associate disciplined actions with positive feelings. So, discipline feels natural and easy. The moment you stop trying to force yourself and start training yourself, everything changes. You stop fighting your own psychology and start working with it. You stop depleting your willpower and start building momentum. You stop relying on motivation and start creating automation. Chapter 2. The Neuroscience of Habit Formation. How your brain really works. To trick your brain into liking discipline, you first need to understand how your brain actually works. And the truth is, your brain is far more programmable than you realize. It's constantly changing, constantly adapting, constantly rewiring itself based on your experiences. This is called neuroplasticity, and it's the reason why you can literally reshape your mind. Every habit you have exists as a neural pathway in your brain. Think of these pathways like roads. The more you travel down a particular road, the wider and smoother it becomes. The less you use a road, the more overgrown and difficult it becomes to navigate. Your brain naturally wants to take the easiest, most familiar route, which is why habits feel automatic once they're established. But here's the crucial part. Your brain can't tell the difference between good habits and bad habits. It doesn't care whether the neural pathway leads to the gym or to the couch. It doesn't care whether the automatic response is reaching for an apple or reaching for cookies. Your brain simply strengthens whatever pathways get used most frequently. This is incredibly powerful once you understand how to use it. It means you can literally build new neural pathways for discipline and make them stronger than your old pathways of laziness and procrastination. But you have to understand the specific mechanism that drives this process. Every habit operates on what scientists call the habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. The cue triggers the behavior. The routine is the behavior itself. And the reward is what your brain gets from completing the behavior. Your brain remembers this sequence and starts to crave the reward whenever it encounters the cue. Here's where most people go wrong. They focus entirely on the routine and ignore the cue and reward. They try to force themselves to exercise without setting up proper triggers or rewards. They try to eat healthy without creating positive associations. They're essentially trying to build a habit loop with missing pieces, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. But when you understand the complete loop, you can engineer habits that feel irresistible. You can choose cues that naturally occur in your environment. You can design routines that feel manageable and achievable. And most importantly, you can create immediate rewards that make your brain crave the entire sequence. The reward is the most critical piece because it's what drives the craving. Your brain doesn't actually want the habit itself. It wants the neurochemical reward that comes from completing the habit. When you work out, your brain releases endorphins. When you complete a challenging task, your brain releases dopamine. When you learn something new, your brain releases acetylcholine. These neurochemicals feel good, really good. And your brain starts to associate the entire activity with these good feelings. Over time, just thinking about the activity begins to trigger anticipation of the reward. This is when discipline transforms from something you have to force yourself to do into something you actually want to do. But there's a catch. The reward has to be immediate and meaningful to your brain. Future rewards, no matter how significant, don't create strong enough associations to drive habit formation. Your brain is wired to value immediate gratification over delayed gratification. This is why promising yourself that you'll be healthy someday isn't enough to motivate daily exercise. The solution is to create immediate rewards for disciplined behavior. This doesn't mean eating a donut after every workout. It means paying attention to the natural rewards that are already there. The endorphin rush, the sense of accomplishment, the boost in energy, the feeling of being proud of yourself. Most people completely miss these immediate rewards because they're so focused on the difficulty of the activity. They're thinking about how hard the workout is instead of how good they feel during and after it. They're thinking about how much they want to quit instead of how strong they're becoming. But when you consciously redirect your attention to the immediate benefits, you begin to condition your brain to associate discipline with pleasure instead of pain. You're literally rewiring your neural pathways to make discipline feel good. This rewiring doesn't happen overnight, but it happens much faster than most people think. Research shows that new neural pathways can begin forming within days and significant changes can occur within weeks. The key is consistency and conscious attention to the rewards. Every time you complete a disciplined action and consciously acknowledge the immediate benefit, you're strengthening the neural pathway that associates that action with reward. Every time you do this, the next repetition becomes slightly easier. Eventually, the pathway becomes so strong that the disciplined action feels automatic and enjoyable. This is how elite performers train themselves. They don't rely on willpower to get through tough practices or challenging work sessions. They've conditioned themselves to genuinely enjoy the process. They've trained their brains to release feel-good chemicals in response to hard work. They've turned discipline into an addiction. The healthiest addiction possible. Chapter 3. The Dopamine System. Programming your brain's reward center. Dopamine is the master chemical of motivation and craving. It's your brain's way of saying, "Do that again." Understanding how dopamine works is absolutely crucial to reprogramming your relationship with discipline because dopamine is what transforms effortful actions into automatic desires. Most people have a completely backwards understanding of dopamine. They think dopamine is released when you achieve something or get a reward. But that's not how it works at all. Dopamine is actually released in anticipation of a reward, not during the reward itself. It's the neurochemical that drives you toward action, not the feeling you get from completing the action. This distinction is massive and it explains why some people naturally crave challenging activities while others avoid them. It's not because they're fundamentally different people. It's because their dopamine systems have been conditioned differently. When your brain expects a reward from an activity, it releases dopamine before you even start the activity. This dopamine release creates motivation, focus, and energy. It makes you want to engage in the behavior. It makes difficult tasks feel exciting rather than burdensome. But here's the key. Your brain only releases anticipatory dopamine for activities it has learned to associate with reward. If your brain has learned that working out leads to feeling good, it will release dopamine. When you think about working out, if your brain has learned that working out leads to suffering, it will not release dopamine and you'll feel resistance instead of motivation. This is why some people genuinely love activities that others hate. Their brains have been conditioned to expect positive outcomes, so their dopamine system drives them toward those activities. They're not more disciplined, they're more conditioned. The amazing thing is that you can deliberately condition your own dopamine system. You can train your brain to release dopamine in response to disciplined behaviors. You can literally make yourself crave the things that are good for you. The process works like this. Every time you pair a behavior with a genuine reward, your brain strengthens the association between that behavior and positive outcomes. Over time, just thinking about the behavior begins to trigger dopamine release. Eventually, you develop a genuine craving for the behavior. But there are specific strategies that make this conditioning process much more effective. First, you need to focus on intrinsic rewards rather than extrinsic ones. Intrinsic rewards are the natural good feelings that come from the activity itself, the endorphin rush from exercise, the satisfaction from solving a problem, the sense of progress from learning something new. Extrinsic rewards are external rewards you give yourself: treats, purchases, entertainment. While extrinsic rewards can be helpful in the beginning, they can actually undermine intrinsic motivation if you become too dependent on them. Your brain starts to focus on the external reward instead of the activity itself. The goal is to train your brain to find the activity itself rewarding. You want your dopamine system to respond to the inherent benefits of discipline. The confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself, the strength that comes from pushing through challenges, the clarity that comes from maintaining healthy habits. To do this effectively, you need to become a detective of your own experience. After every disciplined action, spend a moment consciously identifying what felt good about it. Maybe your body feels more energized. Maybe your mind feels clearer. Maybe you feel proud of yourself for following through. Whatever it is, acknowledge it explicitly. This conscious acknowledgement is crucial because it helps your brain make the connection between the action and the positive feeling. Without this conscious awareness, the brain might miss the connection entirely. But when you deliberately pay attention to the benefits, you're essentially teaching your brain what to expect from this behavior in the future. Another powerful strategy is anticipation training. Before you engage in a disciplined behavior, spend a moment anticipating how good you'll feel afterward. Visualize the sense of accomplishment. Imagine the energy boost. Picture yourself feeling proud and satisfied. This anticipation training serves two purposes. It helps your brain start releasing dopamine before you begin the activity, which gives you more motivation and energy for the task. And it primes your brain to notice and appreciate the rewards when they actually occur. You can also use what scientists call variable reinforcement to make your dopamine conditioning even stronger. Instead of rewarding yourself the same way every time, vary the rewards. Sometimes focus on how accomplished you feel. Sometimes focus on how your body feels. Sometimes focus on how much progress you're making. This variability keeps your dopamine system engaged and prevents habituation. Your brain stays interested and motivated because it never knows exactly what type of reward to expect, but it knows something good is coming. The most advanced strategy is called reward bundling, where you consciously stack multiple types of satisfaction from a single disciplined action. After a workout, you might simultaneously appreciate the physical feeling in your muscles, the mental satisfaction of keeping your commitment, the long-term progress toward your goals, and the immediate boost in energy and mood. When you train yourself to extract multiple layers of reward from disciplined actions, your brain develops an incredibly strong association between discipline and satisfaction. The anticipation of these layered rewards creates powerful motivation that makes discipline feel effortless. Chapter 4. Reframing Pain as Pleasure. The Advanced Psychology of Transformation. The most powerful shift you can make in your relationship with discipline is learning to reframe challenge as excitement rather than suffering. This isn't about lying to yourself or pretending that difficult things are easy. It's about understanding that your interpretation of physical and mental discomfort completely determines how you experience it. Consider this. The exact same physiological sensations that one person experiences as anxiety, another person experiences as excitement. The racing heart, the heightened alertness, the surge of energy. These can be interpreted as either panic or anticipation. The difference isn't in the sensations themselves, but in the meaning your brain assigns to them. The same principle applies to the discomfort that comes with disciplined action. The muscle fatigue from exercise, the mental strain of focused work, the emotional challenge of leaving your comfort zone. All of these can be experienced as either suffering to endure or intensity to enjoy. Elite performers in every field have mastered this reframe. They've trained themselves to interpret challenge as opportunity, difficulty as growth, and discomfort as aliveness. They don't experience less discomfort than everyone else. They've just learned to find meaning and even pleasure in that discomfort. This transformation happens through a process called cognitive reappraisal. Instead of automatically labeling challenging experiences as negative, you consciously choose to interpret them through a different lens. You train yourself to see effort as evidence of growth, resistance as a sign you're pushing boundaries, and discomfort as proof you're becoming stronger. The key is understanding that growth only happens at the edge of your comfort zone. Every time you feel challenged, every time something feels difficult, that's your body and mind adapting to new demands. That discomfort is literally the feeling of yourself becoming more capable. Once you understand this, everything changes. That burning sensation in your muscles during exercise isn't suffering. It's your body building strength. The mental strain of staying focused on difficult work isn't torture. It's your mind developing greater capacity. The emotional discomfort of doing something scary isn't weakness. It's your character expanding. But this reframe only works if you make it consciously and consistently. Your brain's default programming is to avoid discomfort and seek ease. You have to actively train yourself to find meaning and value in challenging experiences. One of the most effective ways to do this is through narrative reframing. Instead of telling yourself, "This is hard and I don't want to do it," you tell yourself, "This is exactly what I need to become the person I want to be." Instead of "This hurts," you think "This is working." Instead of "I can't wait for this to be over," you think "I'm grateful for this opportunity to grow." These aren't just positive thinking tricks. They're powerful psychological tools that literally change how your brain processes challenging experiences. When you consistently frame difficulty as valuable rather than problematic, your brain starts to associate challenging situations with positive outcomes. Another crucial element is learning to find what psychologists call flow states within challenging activities. Flow is the psychological state where you become completely absorbed in what you're doing, where the activity itself becomes intrinsically rewarding. Most people think flow only happens during naturally enjoyable activities. But it can actually be cultivated in any activity that provides the right balance of challenge and skill. To find flow in disciplined activities, you need to adjust the challenge level to match your current ability. If the activity is too easy, you'll be bored. If it's too difficult, you'll be overwhelmed. But when the challenge is just slightly beyond your current comfort zone, you enter a state where the activity becomes engaging and absorbing. You can also cultivate flow by setting clear immediate goals within the larger activity. Instead of just "go to the gym," you might focus on "increase my squat weight by 5 pounds" or "maintain perfect form for every representative." These micro goals create clear feedback loops that keep your mind engaged and motivated. The most advanced practitioners learn to find aesthetic appreciation in challenging activities. They develop an appreciation for the elegance of efficient movement, the beauty of sustained effort, the artistry of pushing through resistance. They turn discipline into a form of expression rather than just endurance. This might sound abstract, but it's incredibly practical when you start to appreciate the craft involved in disciplined action. Nay, the precision required for good form, the mental clarity needed for focused work, the courage required to push through resistance. The activities become fascinating rather than just difficult. You can accelerate this transformation by studying people who genuinely love challenging activities. Watch interviews with elite athletes. Read about successful entrepreneurs. Observe master craftsmen at work. Notice how they talk about difficulty and challenge. Notice how they frame struggle and effort. Notice how they find meaning and purpose in what most people would consider suffering. The goal isn't to become someone who enjoys every moment of every challenging activity. Even the most disciplined people have moments where they don't feel like doing what they need to do. The goal is to develop a deep appreciation for the growth that comes from pushing through resistance and to find genuine satisfaction in the process of becoming stronger, more capable, and more resilient. When you achieve this reframe, discipline stops being something you do despite how it feels and becomes something you do because of how it feels. The challenge itself becomes the reward. Chapter 5: Identity-Based Discipline. Becoming someone who naturally chooses hard things. The most profound transformation happens when you stop trying to act disciplined and start becoming a disciplined person. This isn't just semantics, it's a fundamental shift in how you see yourself. And that shift changes everything about how you approach challenging situations. Most people approach discipline from the outside in. They try to change their behavior while keeping their identity the same. They force themselves to go to the gym while still thinking of themselves as someone who hates exercise. They make themselves eat healthy while still identifying as someone with no willpower around food. They push themselves to work harder while still seeing themselves as naturally lazy. This approach is exhausting and unsustainable, because you're constantly fighting against your own self-concept. Every disciplined action feels like you're acting against your nature. Every moment of resistance feels like proof that you're not really capable of change. You're trying to maintain behaviors that contradict who you believe you are. But when you flip this approach and start with identity, everything becomes easier and more sustainable. Instead of trying to act like a disciplined person, you focus on becoming a disciplined person. Instead of forcing yourself to do things that feel foreign, you choose actions that align with who you're becoming. This works because behavior naturally flows from identity. People act in ways that are consistent with how they see themselves. If you see yourself as someone who values health, you naturally make healthy choices. If you see yourself as someone who follows through on commitments, you naturally honor your promises to yourself. If you see yourself as someone who embraces challenge, you naturally seek out opportunities to grow. The key is understanding that identity isn't fixed. It's constantly being shaped by your actions. Every action you take is essentially a vote for the kind of person you want to be. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're voting for I am someone who does hard things. Every time you choose immediate gratification over long-term goals, you're voting for I am someone who takes the easy path. Your brain keeps track of these votes, and over time the pattern of votes becomes your identity. This is why small actions are so powerful. They're not just creating immediate results. They're literally shaping who you become. But you can accelerate this process by being intentional about the identity you're building. Instead of just randomly taking disciplined actions, you can consciously choose actions that reinforce the specific identity you want to develop. Start by getting clear about who you want to become. Don't focus on what you want to achieve. Focus on the type of person who would naturally achieve those things. If you want to be in great shape, think about the identity of someone who values health and enjoys physical challenge. If you want to be successful in business, think about the identity of someone who embraces hard work and continuous learning. Once you're clear about the identity you want to build, every choice becomes an opportunity to reinforce that identity. When you're deciding whether to work out, you don't ask, "Do I feel like working out?" You ask, "What would someone who values health and physical challenge do right now?" When you're deciding whether to tackle a difficult project, you don't ask, "Is this going to be easy?" You ask, "What would someone who embraces growth and hard work do in this situation?" This shift in questioning completely changes your decision-making process. Instead of fighting against resistance, you're simply acting in alignment with your values and identity. Instead of forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do, you're choosing to do things that express who you're becoming. But here's the crucial part. You have to start small and build evidence gradually. You can't just decide you're a disciplined person and expect your brain to believe it immediately. You have to prove it to yourself through consistent small actions that align with your desired identity. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, you're building evidence that you're someone who follows through. Every time you choose short-term discomfort for long-term benefit, you're building evidence that you're someone who values growth over comfort. Every time you do something challenging when you don't feel like it, you're building evidence that you're someone who doesn't let feelings dictate actions. This evidence accumulates over time and gradually shifts your self-concept. You start to genuinely see yourself as someone who naturally chooses hard things, someone who values growth, someone who follows through on commitments. And once that identity shift happens, disciplined choices stop feeling forced and start feeling natural. You can accelerate this process through what psychologists call identity rehearsal. Throughout the day, Consciously think of yourself as the person you're becoming. When you're facing a choice between comfort and growth, remind yourself, I'm someone who chooses growth. Remind yourself, I'm someone who follows through. When you're deciding how to spend your time, ask yourself, what would someone with my values choose to do right now? This isn't fake it till you make it. This is consciously choosing to embody the identity you're building through your actions. You're not pretending to be someone you're not. You're practicing being someone you're becoming. The most powerful version of this practice is what I call identity anchoring. Choose a specific phrase that captures the identity you're building. I am someone who does hard things. I am someone who chooses growth over comfort. I am someone who keeps promises to myself. Repeat this phrase to yourself regularly, especially when you're facing challenging decisions. This phrase becomes an anchor that helps you make choices aligned with your desired identity rather than your current feelings or impulses. It reminds you of who you're becoming and helps you act from that future identity rather than your past conditioning. Over time, this identity-based approach to discipline becomes incredibly powerful because it aligns your actions with your deepest sense of self. You're no longer fighting against your nature. You're expressing your nature. Discipline becomes a form of self-expression rather than self-force. Chapter 6. Environmental Design. Setting up your world for automatic discipline. Your environment is constantly programming your behavior. And most people have accidentally designed their surroundings to make discipline as difficult as possible. They keep junk food in easy reach while hiding their gym clothes. They place their phone next to their bed while putting their books across the room. They surround themselves with comfort and convenience. Then wonder why they can't stick to challenging goals. But when you understand how environmental cues work, you can flip this dynamic entirely. You can design your physical and digital environment to make disciplined choices feel obvious and effortless while making undisciplined choices feel inconvenient and unnatural. Environmental cues work because your brain is constantly scanning for signals about what to do next. These cues trigger automatic responses that bypass your conscious decision-making process entirely. When you see your running shoes by the door, your brain automatically starts preparing for exercise. When you see your phone on the nightstand, your brain automatically reaches for distraction. The key is understanding that every object in your environment is either cueing disciplined behavior or undisciplined behavior. There's no neutral space. Your surroundings are constantly influencing your choices, usually below the level of conscious awareness. Most people try to overcome bad environmental cues through willpower. But this is backwards and exhausting. Instead of fighting against your environment, you should redesign it to support your goals. Make good choices obvious and bad choices hidden or inconvenient. For physical discipline, like exercise, this means placing your workout clothes where you can't miss them and putting barriers between yourself and excuses. Lay out your gym clothes the night before. Put your running shoes by the front door. Set up your home workout space so it's ready to go at any moment. Remove or hide anything that might tempt you toward laziness. For mental discipline, like focused work, this means creating an environment that signals deep concentration while removing anything that signals distraction. Designate a specific space for important work and keep it completely clear of anything unrelated to that work. Remove your phone from this space entirely. Use website blockers during work hours. Create physical barriers between yourself and easy entertainment. For nutritional discipline, this means making healthy choices the default and unhealthy choices require extra effort. Keep fruits and vegetables at eye level in your refrigerator while hiding less healthy options. Pre-portion healthy snacks and make them easily accessible. Remove junk food from your home entirely or at least make it require significant effort to access. But environmental design goes beyond just physical objects. You also need to consider your digital environment, which has become one of the most powerful influences on modern behavior. Your phone, computer, and other devices are constantly sending cues that either support or undermine your disciplined goals. Design your digital environment just as intentionally as your physical space. Organize your phone so that productive apps are easily accessible while time-wasting apps require extra steps to reach. Use app timers and restrictions to automatically limit access to distracting content. Create different user profiles or environments for different types of activities. Set up your computer desktop to cue focused work rather than distraction. Remove shortcuts to entertainment sites and social media. Use website blockers during work hours. Create desktop backgrounds and screensavers that remind you of your goals and values. Your social environment is equally important and perhaps even more powerful than your physical environment. The people you spend time with are constantly influencing your behavior through their own choices and expectations. If you surround yourself with people who value comfort over growth, you'll naturally drift toward comfort. If you surround yourself with people who embrace challenge and discipline, you'll naturally raise your own standards. This doesn't mean you need to abandon friends who don't share your goals. But it does mean you should be intentional about creating social environments that support your growth. Seek out communities of people who are working towards similar objectives. Join groups focused on the specific areas where you want to develop more discipline. Find accountability partners who will support your goals rather than enable your excuses. Share your commitments with people who will celebrate your progress and gently challenge you when you're falling short. Create social pressure that works in your favor rather than against you. You can also use what psychologists call implementation intentions to bridge the gap between environmental cues and desired behaviors. These are specific if-then plans that predecide how you'll respond to particular situations. Instead of relying on in-the-moment decision-making, you create automatic responses to common scenarios. For example, if I see my workout clothes, then I will immediately put them on and head to the gym. If I sit down at my desk, then I will immediately open my most important project. If I open the refrigerator, then I will first reach for water or healthy food. These pre-made decisions reduce the mental energy required for discipline and make good choices feel automatic. The most powerful environmental design strategy is what I call friction engineering. You systematically increase friction for behaviors you want to avoid while decreasing friction for behaviors you want to embrace. Every extra step, every small barrier, every moment of inconvenience either supports or undermines your goals. Want to eat less junk food? Store it in hard-to-reach places that require effort to access. Want to exercise more? Remove every possible barrier to starting your workout. Want to focus better? Make distraction require multiple steps while making concentrated work require only one click. Remember that small changes in friction can create massive changes in behavior over time. Adding just 20 seconds of inconvenience can dramatically reduce how often you engage in a behavior. Removing 20 seconds of friction can significantly increase how often you choose disciplined actions. Chapter 7. The Momentum System. How small wins create unstoppable discipline. Momentum is the secret weapon that transforms sporadic discipline into sustained excellence. Most people think discipline requires constant effort and willpower. But the truth is that discipline becomes easier and more automatic the longer you practice it. Each discipline choice makes the next one slightly easier. Each small win builds confidence for bigger challenges. Each day of consistency creates momentum that carries you through difficult moments. But momentum doesn't happen by accident. It has to be engineered through specific strategies that create positive feedback loops and compound motivation over time. The key is understanding how to generate early wins that build confidence and create the psychological conditions for sustained effort. The momentum system starts with what I call minimum viable disciplines. These are the smallest possible versions of the habits you want to build. Scaled down to be so easy that you can't fail. Instead of committing to hour-long workouts, you commit to putting on your gym shoes every day. Instead of promising to write 1,000 words, you promise to write one sentence. Instead of overhauling your entire diet, you promise to eat one piece of fruit each day. The goal isn't to stay at this minimal level forever. The goal is to build the neural pathways and psychological patterns that support larger commitments. You're training your brain to see you as someone who follows through on promises to yourself. You're creating evidence that you can be consistent. You're building the foundation for much bigger changes. Most people resist this approach because it feels too small and insignificant. They want to make dramatic changes immediately. But this urgency usually backfires because it creates commitments that are impossible to maintain consistently. When you inevitably fail to meet unrealistic expectations, you damage your confidence and make future attempts more difficult. The momentum system works because it prioritizes consistency over intensity. It's better to do something small every single day than something big once in a while. Consistency builds trust with yourself, which is the foundation of all sustainable discipline. When you consistently keep small promises to yourself, you develop confidence that you can keep bigger promises. Start by choosing one minimum viable discipline that aligns with your larger goals. Make it so small that you could do it even on your worst day. Make it specific enough that there's no ambiguity about whether you completed it. Make it tied to an existing habit so you don't have to remember to do it. Once you've established this minimum discipline for at least 2 weeks, you can begin to gradually expand it. But the expansion should be subtle and sustainable. If you've been putting on your gym shoes every day, maybe you start walking around the block. If you've been writing one sentence every day, maybe you expand to one paragraph. The key is expanding slowly enough that the new version still feels manageable and automatic. You want to stay within what psychologists call your zone of proximal development, the space where challenge is present, but not overwhelming. Push too hard, too fast, and you'll break the momentum you've built. Another crucial element of the momentum system is celebration. Your brain needs to recognize and appreciate each small win in order to build positive associations with disciplined behavior. Most people skip this step entirely, moving immediately from one task to the next without pausing to acknowledge their progress. But celebration is what signals to your brain that the behavior was worthwhile and should be repeated. It doesn't have to be elaborate or time-consuming. Simply pausing for a moment after completing a disciplined action and consciously appreciating your follow-through is enough to strengthen the positive feedback loop. You can enhance this celebration by keeping a visible record of your consistency. This could be as simple as marking an X on a calendar each day you complete your discipline or keeping a journal where you note your daily wins. The visual evidence of your consistency becomes a source of motivation and pride that fuels continued effort. The momentum system also includes what I call keystone disciplines, NEIS, specific habits that naturally trigger other positive behaviors. These are actions that create ripple effects throughout your day and make other discipline choices feel more natural and automatic. Exercise is often a keystone discipline because it boosts energy, improves mood, and creates a sense of accomplishment that carries over into other areas. A morning routine can be a keystone discipline because it establishes a pattern of intentionality that influences choices throughout the day. Reading can be a keystone discipline because it puts you in a learning mindset that makes other growth-oriented activities more appealing. Identify which disciplines have the greatest ripple effect in your life and prioritize building momentum in those areas first. When you establish strong keystone disciplines, other areas of discipline often improve automatically without requiring additional willpower. The momentum system becomes incredibly powerful when you link multiple small disciplines together into what I call discipline chains. These are sequences of small disciplined actions that flow naturally from one to the next, creating sustained periods of productive behavior. For example, your morning discipline chain might include making your bed, drinking a glass of water, doing 5 minutes of stretching, and reading 1 page of a book. Each action is small enough to feel effortless, but together they create a foundation of discipline that sets the tone for your entire day. Design your discipline chains so that each action naturally leads to the next. Use the completion of one action as the cue for the beginning of the next. This creates a flow where discipline feels effortless and automatic rather than forced and difficult. The most advanced practitioners of the momentum system learn to recognize and leverage what I call discipline waves. Periods when motivation and energy are naturally high and disciplined action feels easier. Instead of assuming motivation will always be available, they surf these waves when they appear while maintaining minimum viable disciplines during lower motivation periods. When you feel a discipline wave coming, that's the time to tackle bigger challenges, start new habits, or push beyond your comfort zone. When you feel motivation ebbing, that's the time to return to your minimum viable disciplines and focus on maintaining consistency rather than intensity. Understanding and working with these natural rhythms rather than fighting against them allows you to maintain long-term momentum without burning out or becoming discouraged during inevitable low-energy periods. Chapter 8. Advanced Conditioning Techniques. Training your brain like an elite performer. Elite performers in every field have discovered advanced psychological techniques for conditioning themselves to crave challenging activities. These methods go far beyond basic habit formation and tap into sophisticated principles of behavioral psychology and neuroscience. When you understand and apply these techniques, you can literally train yourself to become addicted to discipline. The first advanced technique is called contrast conditioning, where you systematically alternate between challenging activities and immediately rewarding experiences. This creates a powerful psychological association between effort and pleasure that makes your brain start to crave the entire sequence. Here's how it works. After every challenging activity, you immediately engage in something that feels genuinely good. This doesn't mean eating junk food or watching TV. It means consciously savoring the natural high that comes from completing difficult tasks. You might take a moment to appreciate your accomplishment. Enjoy the physical sensations in your body or visualize how this effort contributes to your long-term goals. The key is making the reward immediate and genuine. Your brain needs to experience positive feelings within minutes of completing the challenging activity. In order to create strong neural associations, the more consistently you pair effort with immediate satisfaction, the more your brain begins to crave the entire sequence. Another powerful technique is called progressive exposure, where you gradually increase the intensity of challenging activities while maintaining positive associations. This allows you to build tolerance for higher levels of discomfort while keeping the experience rewarding rather than overwhelming. Start with a level of challenge that feels manageable and even somewhat enjoyable. Once you've established positive associations at this level, gradually increase the intensity. The increases should be small enough that the activity still feels rewarding, but significant enough that you're continuously expanding your comfort zone. This technique is particularly effective for physical disciplines like exercise, where you can gradually increase duration, intensity or complexity while maintaining the enjoyment of the activity. But it also works for mental disciplines like focused work, where you can gradually extend concentration periods while keeping the work engaging and rewarding. The third technique is called association stacking, where you consciously layer multiple positive associations onto a single challenging activity. Instead of focusing on just one benefit of the activity, you train yourself to simultaneously appreciate multiple rewards. For a workout, you might simultaneously appreciate the physical sensation of your muscles working, the mental satisfaction of keeping a commitment to yourself, the long-term progress toward your health goals, the immediate boost in energy and mood, and the sense of accomplishment from pushing through resistance. The more positive associations you can stack onto a single activity, the more powerfully your brain will crave that activity. Visualization conditioning is another advanced technique where you use mental rehearsal to strengthen the neural pathways associated with disciplined behavior. Before engaging in challenging activities, you spend time vividly imagining yourself successfully completing the activity and feeling great about it afterward. This mental rehearsal serves multiple purposes. It prepares your brain for success. It allows you to practice experiencing positive emotions in connection with the activity, and it strengthens the neural pathways that will be activated during the actual behavior. The more detailed and emotionally engaging your visualizations, the more effective this technique becomes. The most sophisticated technique is called state anchoring, where you consciously create psychological triggers that instantly access the mental and emotional state needed for disciplined action. This involves identifying the specific thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations that accompany your most disciplined moments, then creating simple cues that can recreate those states on demand. During moments when discipline feels effortless and enjoyable, pay close attention to everything about your internal experience. Notice your posture, your breathing, your emotional state, your thought patterns, and any physical sensations. Then create a simple physical gesture, phrase, or mental image that you can use to recall this state when discipline feels more difficult. With practice, these anchors become incredibly powerful tools for accessing your most disciplined mindset whenever you need it. Instead of waiting for motivation to strike naturally, you can consciously recreate the psychological conditions that make discipline feel effortless. Advanced practitioners also use what's called environmental conditioning, where they create specific physical environments that automatically trigger disciplined states. This goes beyond simple environmental design to create spaces that have been psychologically conditioned to enhance focus, motivation, and performance. This involves consistently using specific locations only for disciplined activities, gradually building up powerful psychological associations between those spaces and peak performance states. Over time, simply entering these environments begins to automatically shift your mindset toward discipline and focus. You can accelerate this conditioning by consciously appreciating these spaces every time you use them successfully. Appreciate the sense of clarity and purpose that comes from being in a place dedicated to your growth. The most advanced technique is called transformation tracking, where you maintain detailed awareness of how disciplined actions are changing you at physical, mental, and emotional levels. This isn't just about tracking outcomes like weight loss or productivity metrics. It's about consciously noticing and appreciating the subtle ways that discipline is transforming your entire being. Pay attention to how your confidence changes as you consistently follow through on commitments. Notice how your energy levels shift as you maintain healthy habits. Observe how your mental clarity improves as you practice focused work. Track how your emotional resilience develops as you regularly push through resistance. This conscious tracking creates powerful motivation because it helps you see discipline not just as a means to external goals but as a process of becoming a fundamentally different person. When you realize that every disciplined action is literally rewiring your brain and rebuilding your character, the activities themselves become meaningful and rewarding. The key to all these advanced techniques is consistency and conscious attention. These conditioning methods only work if you apply them systematically over time. But when you do apply them consistently, they create incredibly powerful psychological momentum that makes discipline feel natural, enjoyable, and even addictive. Chapter 9. Overcoming Resistance. What to do when your brain fights back. Even with perfect conditioning techniques and environmental design, you will still face moments when your brain actively resists disciplined action. This resistance isn't a sign that you're failing or that the techniques don't work. It's a natural part of the growth process that can actually be used to accelerate your development when you understand how to work with it properly. Resistance typically shows up in three forms. Physical resistance, where your body feels heavy and sluggish. Emotional resistance, where you feel anxious or unmotivated. And mental resistance, where your mind generates endless excuses and distractions. Each type requires specific strategies to overcome effectively. Physical resistance often manifests as fatigue, tension, or a general sense that your body doesn't want to move toward challenging activities. This happens because your nervous system is trying to conserve energy by keeping you in familiar low-effort patterns. The solution isn't to fight against this physical resistance, but to work with your body's natural rhythms and energy systems. Start by acknowledging the physical resistance without judgment. Your body isn't being lazy or stubborn. It's following its programming to conserve energy. Then use movement to shift your physical state. Sometimes just standing up and doing light movement for 60 seconds is enough to break through physical inertia and access the energy needed for more challenging activities. You can also use breathing techniques to shift your physical state rapidly. Deep rhythmic breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system and can quickly move you from a state of resistance to a state of readiness. Spend 2 to 3 minutes focusing entirely on slow deep breathing while visualizing yourself successfully engaging in the challenging activity. Cold exposure is another powerful tool for overcoming physical resistance. A cold shower or even splashing cold water on your face can instantly shift your nervous system from a state of comfort-seeking to a state of alertness and energy. This physiological shift often carries over into other areas and makes disciplined action feel more natural. Emotional resistance typically shows up as anxiety, overwhelm, or a general feeling that you don't want to engage in challenging activities. This happens because your brain associates challenge with potential threat or discomfort. The key to overcoming emotional resistance is reframing the emotional experience rather than trying to suppress or ignore it. Instead of viewing anxiety as a signal to avoid the activity, learn to interpret it as excitement about growth. The physiological sensations of anxiety and excitement are nearly identical. The difference is in how you interpret them. When you feel your heart racing before a challenging workout or important project, consciously reframe that sensation as your body preparing for peak performance. You can also use what psychologists call the 202 rule to overcome emotional resistance. Instead of trying to commit to the entire challenging activity when you're feeling resistant, just commit to getting started for 20 seconds. Often the resistance disappears once you actually begin the activity and momentum carries you through the rest. Another effective strategy for emotional resistance is called the curiosity approach. Instead of focusing on how difficult the activity will be, approach it with genuine curiosity about what you'll discover or how you'll feel afterward. This shifts your emotional state from avoidance to interest, which naturally reduces resistance. Mental resistance is often the most sophisticated form of resistance because it disguises itself as rational thinking. Your mind generates logical-sounding reasons why you should postpone disciplined action. You're too busy. The timing isn't right. You should do more research first. You'll start tomorrow when you have more energy. The key to overcoming mental resistance is recognizing these thoughts as resistance rather than legitimate reasoning. Your brain is incredibly creative at generating excuses, and many of them will sound perfectly reasonable. But you can learn to distinguish between genuine practical considerations and resistance disguised as logic. When you notice your mind generating excuses, pause and ask yourself, is this a legitimate concern that requires immediate attention, or is this my brain trying to keep me in my comfort zone? Most of the time, you'll realize the excuse is just resistance trying to prevent growth and change. You can also use what I call the resistance redirect technique. Instead of fighting against resistant thoughts, acknowledge them and then redirect that mental energy toward the challenging activity. I notice I'm feeling resistant to working out, which means this is exactly what I need to be doing right now to grow stronger. One of the most powerful tools for overcoming all forms of resistance is developing what psychologists call metacognitive awareness. I see the ability to observe your own thoughts and reactions without being controlled by them. When you can step back and notice resistance as it arises, you gain the power to choose your response rather than being automatically controlled by the resistance. Practice observing your resistance with curiosity rather than judgment. Notice where you feel it in your body. Notice what thoughts accompany it. Notice what emotions are present. This observer perspective creates space between you and the resistance, giving you room to choose disciplined action despite the resistance. Advanced practitioners learn to use resistance as fuel for discipline. They recognize that the presence of resistance indicates they're approaching something important for their growth. Instead of seeing resistance as an obstacle, they see it as confirmation that they're moving in the right direction. The strongest resistance often appears just before the biggest breakthroughs. When you're developing a new level of discipline, your brain will generate intense resistance as it tries to pull you back to familiar patterns. Learning to push through this resistance is what separates people who achieve lasting transformation from those who stay stuck in cycles of starting and stopping. You can also use pre-commitment strategies to bypass resistance entirely. These involve making decisions about challenging activities when you're in a positive, motivated state, then creating systems that make it difficult to back out when resistance arises later. This might involve scheduling workouts with other people, putting money on the line for your commitments, or creating public accountability that makes it socially difficult to give up when you feel resistant. The key is designing these commitments when you're feeling motivated so that they carry you through periods of resistance. Remember that resistance is temporary and will pass if you don't feed it with avoidance. Every time you push through resistance and engage in disciplined action anyway, you weaken the resistance pattern and strengthen the discipline pattern. Over time, resistance becomes less frequent and less intense as your brain learns that disciplined action leads to positive outcomes. Chapter 10. Automation and Mastery. Making discipline as natural as breathing. The ultimate goal of training your brain to like discipline isn't just to make challenging activities easier. It's to make them so automatic and natural that they require virtually no conscious effort or decision-making. This level of mastery transforms discipline from something you do into something you are. True automation happens when disciplined behaviors become so deeply ingrained in your neural pathways that they occur without conscious intention or willpower. You don't have to decide to exercise any more than you have to decide to brush your teeth. You don't have to force yourself to eat healthy food any more than you have to force yourself to breathe. The behaviors become as natural and automatic as any other biological function. But reaching this level requires understanding the specific mechanisms that create behavioral automation and systematically applying them over extended periods. Most people give up long before they reach true automation because they're still relying on conscious effort and willpower rather than building genuine unconscious competence. The first requirement for automation is what neuroscientists call overarning. Do practicing a behavior far beyond the point where it feels comfortable and familiar. Most people stop practicing once a behavior becomes easy. But automation requires continuing to practice until the behavior becomes completely effortless and unconscious. This means continuing to reinforce positive associations with disciplined behaviors even after they start feeling natural. It means maintaining conscious appreciation for the benefits even after they become obvious. It means protecting the environmental cues and reward systems that support these behaviors even after they feel automatic. The second requirement is what I call context independence. The ability to maintain disciplined behaviors regardless of external circumstances. True automation means the behaviors persist whether you're tired or energetic, stressed or relaxed, at home or traveling, busy or free. The behaviors become so deeply embedded that they adapt to any situation. Building context independence requires deliberately practicing disciplined behaviors in various circumstances and emotional states. Don't just exercise when you feel motivated. Exercise when you're tired, stressed, or busy. Don't just eat healthy when it's convenient. Maintain healthy choices when you're traveling or in social situations. This variability training makes the behaviors truly robust and automatic. The third requirement is identity integration. The disciplined behaviors must become so aligned with your sense of self that acting differently would feel strange and unnatural. This goes beyond just thinking of yourself as disciplined. The behaviors must become expressions of your core identity rather than things you do despite your natural inclinations. When discipline becomes identity integrated, breaking disciplined patterns feels as uncomfortable as acting against any other aspect of your personality. Someone who has truly integrated exercise into their identity feels restless and off balance when they miss workouts, not because they think they should exercise, but because exercise has become a fundamental part of who they are. This integration happens through consistent reinforcement of the connection between disciplined actions and personal values. Every time you engage in disciplined behavior, consciously recognize how that behavior